He was a man with muscles for brains. As the youngest champion in the World Powerlifting Championship, Yu Hanyul was already a monster at 17, strong enough to challenge 10 tons head-on. And right now, he was giving it everything he had, preparing to break another record. But the very next second, his vision went dark. His entire body dropped straight to the ground. Did I pass out again? He thought in a daze. Is it because I still don't have enough muscle? Ding dong. Top-tier skill unlocked. Infinite muscle growth. But getting too huge might make girls hate him. Ding dong. Compensation rare skill granted. Combat only lean physique. Should he chase fashion? Or should he chase a perfectly developed chest? For once, Yu Hanyul actually used his brain and was seriously torn. After all, this had always been one of the 3 greatest mysteries of the universe. Wait, what am I even thinking about? Shouldn't I be thinking about protein right now? Ding dong. Special skill acquired. Eagle Eye level 1. Bonus passive skill acquired. Unshakable calm. Who keeps mumbling in my ear? Wait, did I order my chicken breast meal yet? Just then, a burst of clucking interrupted his thoughts. Yu Hanyul slowly opened his eyes, and in the next second, he froze. Where am I? And why is everything clucking? The next second, his passive skill Unshakable Calm activated automatically. He calmly began to analyze the situation. A moment ago, he had clearly been in the middle of a competition. Now, he was standing on a grassland, surrounded by nothing but endless plains and a crowd of cluckers. Yu Hanyul fell into deep thought. Based on those 2 facts, a flash of inspiration suddenly struck him. I understand now. I must have eaten too much chicken breast, so heaven threw me into a hell full of cluckers. Just then, one clucker waddled over and pecked him on the face. Yu Hanyul instantly snapped. A lowly clucker actually dares to attack me. He threw one punch, and the clucker dropped on the spot. He was already annoyed because he had not gotten his protein today. But then he looked at the clucker on the ground, and his eyes suddenly lit up. Wait, isn't this protein? The moment he looked at the clucker, Eagle Eye LV1 activated automatically. A line of text immediately appeared before his eyes. Target, clucker. Protein content, 68. What is this voice? Is the god of fitness trying to guide me? Yu Hanyul was overjoyed. He stared at the flock of cluckers with a burning hunger. The next moment, he launched himself straight at them. Since you're all protein, don't mind if I help myself. And so, the cluckers that had been warm and alive 1 second ago were reduced to cold skeletons the next. Yu Hanyul let out a satisfied burp. This place was basically heaven, but not long after he felt satisfied, he noticed something was wrong. Why are my arms thinner? And where are my ridiculous chest muscles? He could even reach his own back now. The last time he had been able to touch his back was back in kindergarten. He immediately rushed to the riverside. The moment he saw his reflection in the water, he completely broke down. Holding his head in pain, he screamed, "Where are my muscles? Where are all my huge, glorious muscles?" Compared to where he was right now, he cared far more about where his muscles had gone. Then he walked up to a massive tree. He gripped the trunk tightly with both hands, veins bulging across his arms. With a sharp, ripping sound, he actually tore the entire tree out by the roots. Hard work will never betray me. He hoisted the tree onto his shoulders. Log squats begin now. In the blink of an eye, 3 months passed. Yu Hanyul gasped for breath. As expected, hard work really can betray me. My muscles haven't grown at all. Ever since I came here, not a single good thing has happened. Except for the fact that I can get plenty of protein. Just as Yu Hanyul was about to return to the true spirit of bodybuilding and knock out another set, a massive shadow fell over him. He turned around, his eyes widening in shock. What the hell is that? Behind him stood a giant clucker, taller than he was. Yu Hanyul took off running. Why is a clucker this huge? Did I eat too many cluckers, so now the god of cluckers is taking revenge on me? He ran while whining to himself. All I wanted was a powerful body. Is that really such a greedy wish? The clucker's attack arrived in a flash. The thing was fast and vicious. If that thing hits me, I'm probably dead on the spot, aren't I? But right then, Yu Hanyul suddenly couldn't look away. Damn it. Those chest muscles are incredible. I'm so jealous I can't even take my eyes off them. He even forgot to run and started thinking seriously. Could flapping wings help build chest muscles? I thought my muscles stayed small because I wasn't strong enough. That's why I spent the last few months focusing on strength training. Was I wasting my time this whole time? The next moment, fighting spirit surged through him. I can't die. I need chest muscles that round and perfect too. But 2 ordinary cluckers blocked his path. Yu Hanyul cursed irritably. These damn chickens are so annoying. Right then, Eagle Eye activated automatically. Yu Hanyul yelled, "Damn it, I don't need..." But the giant clucker behind him suddenly flared its eyes red and charged. Yu Hanyul screamed, "Dear clucker, be reasonable. I wasn't talking about you. I meant I don't need the skill." But Eagle Eye activated anyway. A line appeared before his eyes. Target cockatrice. Protein content 12,000 kg. Consuming cockatrice breast meat grants an additional rare skill. Astonishing muscle recovery. The moment Yu Hanyul read that, he froze. Muscle recovery. ... In an instant, his fighting spirit exploded. He dodged every attack the cockatrice threw at him. Most people think muscles are built during exercise, but that's not actually true. Exercise damages muscle tissue, and while that damage is happening, muscle function temporarily drops. But once that damaged tissue gets the right nutrition and enough rest, it grows back even stronger than before. That is what people call supercompensation. In other words, muscles do not grow while you train. They grow while you recover, which means the shorter the recovery time, the faster the muscle growth. And the faster my muscles grow, the sooner I can get rid of this skinny body. So if killing you is what it takes to escape the scrawny frame, then die, cockatrice. Even if I have to bet my life on it. I'm getting chest muscles chiseled from stone. Warning. The power level of the combat-only lean physique skill exceeds safe battle parameters. Remove restriction? Stop bothering me when I'm fighting. Yu Hanyul roared. Restriction removed. Limit break detected. Special skill and bodily changes acquired. By then, the cockatrice's attack was already right in front of him. Yu Hanyul raised his fist and shouted, "Behold my cosmic ultimate clucker punch." One punch later, the cockatrice was blown straight through. Warning! Muscle endurance damaged. Restarting combat-only lean physique skill required. But Yu Hanyul only looked indifferent. Do whatever you want. From now on, I'm eating chicken breast until I'm full every single day. At the time, he still had no idea where he was, what kind of creatures lived there, or what kind of condition he himself was in. All he knew was that in the blink of an eye, the cockatrice that had been warm and alive was turned into a piping hot meal. While Yu Hanyul was busy thinking about how to eat the cockatrice, he failed to notice several figures in the darkness, staring straight at him. They stared at Yu Hanyul, with drool practically streaming from their mouths. "Bro, wipe your drool," one goblin beside them said. "Sorry, bro, it's been a long time since I last smelled meat," another goblin said, patting him on the shoulder. "We should stay hidden for now. Better be careful. We still don't know if he's the one who took down that cockatrice. He could be some monster that just happens to look human. Should we go ask him?" One goblin suggested. The other two goblins immediately turned pale. "Are you crazy? What if he's a dangerous monster?" At that moment, Yu Hanyul, who was still enjoying his cockatrice meat nearby, finally noticed them. After all, with people staring at him like that, and from such a close distance, it was impossible not to notice. Yu Hanyul immediately asked who they were. One of them quickly said, "We're the barbecue living in Ari Mine." Then he frantically shook his head. "No, I mean ghouls." Yu Hanyul immediately activated Eagle Eye. They really were ghouls, so they were not lying. The little ghoul then explained that they had been searching for the person who defeated the cockatrice. Yu Hanyul panicked inside. Wait, did this clucker have an owner? Still, he answered honestly, "I already took it down." The three little ghouls instantly started jumping around with joy. "We finally found him." The ghoul quickly explained that the giant clucker had been the strongest creature in Ari Mine. After it died, every race in the area started fighting over territory. But what Yu Hanyul cared about was something else entirely. Its legs are so thin. If I lightly punched it, it would probably cry like a baby, wouldn't it? The ghoul went on to say that although the cockatrice was not very smart, its presence had kept the territorial borders clear. But now that it was dead, every race had started fighting again, so they desperately wanted Yu Hanyul's help. Hearing that, Yu Hanyul scratched his chin and started thinking seriously. "Can you say the part where you asked for my help one more time? I didn't hear it earlier." The little ghoul replied, "We already said it 9 times. Yu Hanyul awkwardly scratched his head. 10 reps per set. 10 sets total? The little ghoul had no idea what he meant by 10 sets. "What are you talking about? Cows?" Yu Hanyul instantly snapped. "It means if there's something you want to do, you try it at least 10 times. Got it?" One ghoul pouted, while another impatiently scratched his arm. Clearly they did not get it at all. They immediately stood up. "Let's just go. It looks like he doesn't want to help us." Yu Hanyul laughed awkwardly. "I'm busy growing muscle, so yeah, I really don't have time to help." One ghoul said, "It's fine. You have your own things to do anyway." Yu Hanyul looked at the skin and bones ghouls and felt a little bad for them, so he suggested, "Why don't you take some chicken breast before you leave? I can't finish all this by myself anyway." One ghoul said, "Go ahead and take some. Everyone hasn't had fresh meat in a long time." Yu Hanyul apologized for not being able to help them. The little ghoul replied, "No, we're really grateful for the food." After saying that, he walked over to a huge piece of clucker meat. But just as he was about to pick up the chicken breast, Yu Hanyul suddenly stopped him. The little ghoul looked at him curiously. "What's wrong?" The next second, he had to listen as Yu Hanyul launched into a long lecture about how dangerous deadlifting with bad form could be. "You almost snapped that tiny waist of yours in half just now. Do you even realize that?" The little ghoul immediately waved his hands and apologized, while thinking to himself, "What did I even do wrong?" Yu Hanyul could tell what he was thinking just from his expression. "Don't tell me you guys don't know what a deadlift is." The little ghouls immediately waved their hands. "What the heck is that? Is it tasty?" Yu Hanyul sighed. "No wonder your bodies look like this." When Yu Hanyul was young, his master once told him, "Hanyul, when you can teach someone else, that means you've truly learned it yourself. So when your training hits a wall, try teaching others. Try teaching them properly." Yu Hanyul rubbed his chin as he watched the three ghouls wobble away while carrying the chicken breast. The next moment, he appeared in front of them and lifted the chicken breast out of their hands. "Eat your fill here first. You can go back to your village afterward." The three ghouls immediately lit up. "Are you serious?" Yu Hanyul answered at once. "Of course, I've got plenty of room. You can even go back tomorrow." In the blink of an eye, the next day arrived, and Yu Hanyul followed them to the ghoul village. The Ghoul King sat proudly on his chair. "Welcome, great warrior. I am the Ghoul King, ruler of the ghoul race." Then he asked, "Did you run into any trouble on the way here?" Yu Hanyul immediately said they had not, while thinking to himself, "This little thing sure looks unique. Thin limbs, a belly swollen like a toad's. Honestly, it looks hilarious. I'm glad you didn't run into trouble. We received the gift you sent us, Hanyul, and I already ordered my people to bring back the remaining meat." Yu Hanyul said worriedly, "Having them bring it back isn't the problem. It'll probably take a really long time." But the Ghoul King suddenly burst into laughter. "Are you worried about those servants?" Yu Hanyul immediately looked annoyed. This guy was seriously getting on his nerves. Then, the Ghoul King suddenly changed the subject. "Mr. Hanyul, by defeating the cockatrice, you have caused quite a bit of trouble. As you can see, we ghouls are the weakest race in Airy Mine. Other than me, no one here can use skills. We can only survive by eating carrion." But Yu Hanyul caught the important part and immediately raised his hand. "You just said skills, right? Can you explain that to me in detail? Are you joking with me?" "You're asking what a skill is?" Yu Hanyul immediately replied, "I'm not joking." Hearing that, the Ghoul King's whole body trembled. Then he started laughing coldly and shouted toward the entrance, "Drag in the ones who brought this man here." In the blink of an eye, the three little ghouls were brought inside. "Bring them before me and make them kneel." The little ghouls looked confused. "Your Highness, why did you call us here?" The Ghoul King stared at them impatiently. "It seems you don't even know what crime you've committed." Then he looked to the side. "Bring that thing over." Several ghouls worked together to carry in an enormous wooden club. The Ghoul King tossed the club in his hand as he said, "Swearing absolute loyalty to a powerful member of the race is a rule passed down since ancient times. But you brought back an imposter, pretending to be the one who defeated the cockatrice. I gave you this task so you would have a chance to rise and become my subordinates, and yet you dared to lie to me." The next moment, he raised the club and prepared to smash it down. "For the crime of deceiving me, you will pay with your lives. Activate skill, double heavy blunt." As soon as he finished speaking, the giant club in his hand slammed down, kicking up a thick cloud of dust. The little ghouls stared ahead in terror. The Ghoul King's attack had been blocked by Yu Hanyul with just one hand. Yu Hanyul stared at him blankly. "You clearly have time to exercise, but you waste it bullying the weak. Is that some kind of village tradition?" But the Ghoul King was also frozen, his face full of disbelief. "Did my skill fail to activate? But when I swung down, I definitely felt the weight increase. I activated the skill, and I landed the hit. So why can this guy block it with one hand?" But unfortunately, his brain capacity was not large enough to think that deeply. He immediately gave a cold laugh. "You got lucky today. I'll give you a special demonstration. My heavy blunt skill can increase the weight of my weapon by 2 to 10 times. Yu Hanyul was shocked. "A skill that can multiply weapon weight? That's basically cheating." The Ghoul King continued, And my skill can also increase my already great strength by up to 4 times. If I multiply this 32 kilogram club by 4, then double the force of my swing on top of that. Do you still think you can block it? As soon as he finished, he activated his skill. 4-fold heavy blunt. This huge club came crashing down toward Yu Han-yul. The little ghouls were terrified by the sight. But what happened next was even more terrifying. The moment the club struck Yu Han-yul's arm, it shattered into pieces with a loud crack. The horrifying scene scared the Ghoul King so badly that his face twisted out of shape. Your skill really did surprise me. Yu Han-yul's voice rang out as his cold gaze locked straight onto the Ghoul King. But what surprised me even more was your character. The next moment, Yu Han-yul stretched out his arm and used dumbbell front raise finger. His finger suddenly clamped around the Ghoul King's neck. Are you really strong enough to decide other people's lives however you want? The Ghoul King stared at the man in front of him in horror. He knew that if he answered poorly today, someone might be pulling weeds from his grave next year. Then Yu Han-yul's furious voice sounded again. You think you're strong? What's your total for the big 3? The Ghoul King looked completely lost. What the hell are the big 3? Does it mean hitting each other 3 times? Yu Han-yul immediately explained. The big 3 in powerlifting are bench press, squat, and deadlift. Have none of you heard of them? All the ghouls standing nearby nodded in perfect unison. I see. And just like that, a contest began. The Ghoul King looked at the object in front of him and asked, "So, I just have to lift this, right?" Yu Han-yul nodded. That's right. Then don't forget our agreement. If I win, you become my subordinate. Yu Han-yul looked completely unconcerned and even reminded him, remember to brace your core. Don't blow out your back. What an idiot. The Ghoul King sneered. He definitely hasn't realized my heavy blunt skill can also reduce weight instead. Then he activated heavy blunt. The next moment, he lifted 200 kilograms with ease. The Ghoul King pointed at Yu Han-yul. Your turn. Yu Han-yul scratched his butt out of boredom. Not bad. Next time, use your glutes a little more. And, all of you, watch carefully. If I win, I'm making you do deadlifts too. The deadlift is a full-body movement that tests the maximum strength of the human body. It may look like you simply lift the barbell with explosive power, but in reality, most of the force comes from the muscles of the lower body. Since deadlifts carry a risk of injury, you must always warm up your joints first and complete the entire movement with proper form. Step 1. Plant your feet firmly, shoulder width apart. Step 2. Keep your chest up and your back tight. Use your core, lower back, and glutes to stabilize your torso. Step 3. Keep the barbell close to your body, sliding it up along your shins and thighs. Drive through your feet, lower body, and entire body to lift the bar. Step 4. Pull the barbell up to knee level. But just as Yu Han-yul was about to lift, the Ghoul King gave a sinister laugh from the side. Can you still lift it now? 4-fold heavy blunt. The next second, Yu Han-yul used all his strength, and veins instantly bulged across his arms. The barbell shot straight into the sky. At that point, it was practically launched straight into orbit. Everyone was stunned. Yu Han-yul looked at the barbell turning into a tiny dot in the sky and thought, looks like I didn't control my strength properly. Then he looked at the ghouls and sincerely apologized. You'll need to make a new barbell. The Ghoul King stared at Yu Han-yul and stammered, You are the new Ghoul King. Please accept us. Yu Han-yul stared at the scene in complete confusion, and just like that, he was casually registered as the new Ghoul King. After losing the Big 3 contest, the Ghoul King became extremely obedient. From him, Yu Han-yul finally learned that this world was completely different from the one he used to live in. According to legend, some people had once come to this world and managed to leave, returning to their own world. But Yu Han-yul figured that if he went back in his current body, he would probably be locked up in a lab, so he decided to put that idea aside for now. Malaysia was a world where the law of the jungle was deeply rooted in everyone's mind. That was why, after witnessing Yu Han-yul's overwhelming strength, the Ghoul King submitted completely. To avoid confusion, from now on, you'll be called the Old Ghoul King. We're here. This is where we train our warriors. Judging from the ghouls' bodies, Yu Han-yul had already guessed it would be bad. But he never expected it to be this ridiculous. Wasn't this just an empty field? He looked helplessly at the Old Ghoul King. What exactly have you been training? The Old Ghoul King quickly apologized. I'm sorry, I truly don't know anything about that field. Yu Han-yul shook his head. Even without top-tier coaches or equipment, I'm still going to make you train. Then he shouted, all ghouls assemble, line up in 5 rows. Soon, a crowd of ghouls gathered on the field, looking at one another in confusion. Yu Hanyul stood in front of them and began a fiery speech. I heard that we ghouls are looked down on by every other race, forced to survive on scraps left behind by other monsters. So what do people like you need the most? Organization? Scouting ability? Speed? Wrong. What you poor guys need most is a strong body. Over the next 3 months, I will turn you into proper soldiers. Is 3 months really enough? One ghoul asked doubtfully. Another ghoul shouted with fighting spirit. We don't want to be looked down on anymore. Yu Hanyul glanced over. Good, that's the spirit. Now then, everyone, start push-ups. The ghouls stared at him blankly. Push-ups? What the heck is a push-up? Yu Hanyul immediately dropped down and demonstrated. All of you, get on the ground. The ghouls quickly copied him. Like this? What does this even do? At that moment, Yu Hanyul's fighting spirit burned once again. We'll start the warm-up with push-ups. Now, do 100 push-ups with me. But 3 hours later, the ghouls all looked like their souls had left their bodies. This is more exhausting than pleasing my wife. 24761, 24767, 24780. Yu Hanyul was still full of energy, but the old ghoul king interrupted him from the side. Lord Hanyul, all the ghouls have already died inside. Fine, then I'll do another 100, and we'll eat after that. We may not be human, but you're seriously a monster. You already made us do 700, and now you want another 100? I can't do this anymore. At this rate, I might not even be able to satisfy my wife tonight. Things were better when a ghoul was still in charge. Isn't this enough? Getting this far is already impressive for us. Old Ghoul King, why don't you try challenging him again? Hearing that, Yu Hanyul slowly stood up. Good. All of you stood up. One ghoul said, "It should be over now, right? My whole body feels like it's about to fall apart." Another ghoul also thought it was time to eat. But before he could finish, Yu Hanyul's furious voice cut him off. This weak mindset is exactly why everyone looks down on you. Do you enjoy being looked down on? Do you think pretending nothing is wrong will fix anything? This is the wilderness. If you look weak out here, you die. So go ahead and keep living like cowards. When your friends and family all end up dead, are you still going to run away? If there's trash like that among you, get out right now. I won't allow people like that to stay here. The ones who remain will build bodies strong enough to protect the people they love. What makes the best coach? Is it the person who knows the most about muscles? Or the person who has built their own body to the highest level? Anyone can do those things. People like that can use what they know to create amazing results. But that does not necessarily make them the best coach. The best coach is someone who can make people with no desire to exercise want to move. Push up. Push with the determination to die if you fail. Use your whole body to lift up the coward you used to be. Protect your parents. Your right hand is your father, and your left hand is your mother. Push up. You can do this. For your parents, for the future of your tribe, and for the new version of yourselves. Push up. And so, the ghouls' morale soared, and not one of them complained anymore. It was all thanks to Hanyul's correct training philosophy. 3 months later, the ghoul village is this way, right? Yes. The scouts already confirmed it. This is definitely the path. Look, I think we're almost there. One lizard man suggested, let's organize the formation before we move on. Another snapped, are you out of your mind? Another lizard man let out a cold laugh. Against mere ghouls, why would we need tactics? Just attack. Starting today, this place becomes the first colony of the lizard men. Not far away, the old Ghoul King and Yu Hanyul were watching the scene. Your Highness, they're here. They seem to be lizard men. But what Yu Hanyul noticed was their well-developed rectus femoris muscles. Then he shouted, bench press squad, chest up, breathe in, brace your core, tighten your sphincter, aim at the enemy, and push. Now, in an instant, the lizard men below were smashed by flying stones, suffering heavy casualties. They stared in horror. What is this? Who the hell did that? Who else could it be? Yu Hanyul sneered. The ghouls who have finally escaped the title of weakest. At that moment, the Lizardman King was shocked by what he saw. We attacked you head-on, and you dare ambush us? At this rate, even a total wipeout wouldn't be surprising. How cowardly. Truly disgusting. Then his gaze shifted toward Hanyul and the old Ghoul King on the hillside. The only way to turn this around now was to capture their leader. The extraordinary aura and overwhelming presence radiating from that figure told his instincts one thing. That had to be the leader here. The next moment, he shouted an enraged challenge toward the Ghoul King on the hill. His booming voice successfully caught the attention of both Hanyul and the old Ghoul King. The old Ghoul King secretly glanced at Hanyul, wondering how Hanyul would respond to the provocation. But as Hanyul looked down at the shouting lizardmen, he was suddenly lost in a memory. A long, long time ago, he had once raised a lizard. It was a rare species called Wicked. It had a bite force of over 2 tons, and whenever Hanyul had time, it would drool while playing chase with him. However, even a bite force that powerful could not pierce Hanyul's freakishly jacked arm. What happened next was not suitable for children, so there was no need to explain further. In short, he never saw that little troublemaker again. Thinking of this, Hanyul suddenly had a flash of inspiration. Then, he vanished from where he stood. He flew straight toward the lizardmen below. The next moment, Hanyul slammed a lizardman king into the ground. After taking such a massive impact, the lizardman could not stop coughing up blood. Hanyul then lifted the lizardman's body with absolutely terrible form. After that, he stared down at the lizardman beneath him with burning eyes. The lizardman struggled with all his might, but it was useless. Compared to Hanyul, his strength was like that of a child. Pinned beneath Hanyul, he trembled in fear, and his resistance grew weaker and weaker. The next moment, he actually burst into pathetic tears and said he was willing to surrender and become his lackey. Seeing this, Hanyul was overjoyed. So the thing he had learned from that book back then really was true. And just like that, the lizardmen's colony plan collapsed completely. Meanwhile, on White Kingdom Wyvern Island, not far from Ari Mine, I never expected such a small nation to produce talents as impressive as you. I was very satisfied with the battle just now. After a brief pause, he spoke again. I now order you to carry out a level 2 mission. Investigate the disappearance of the cockatrice. Are you willing to accept? The 3 figures before him answered in unison. After the 3 of them left, the Count turned his eyes to the young man beside him and asked in confusion, "Can we really entrust such an important mission to those young soldiers?" The young man waved his hand, signaling that there was no need to worry. They may be young, but all of them are famous geniuses. Raphael specializes in dazzling swordsmanship. He can toy with his opponents in the palm of his hand. If we are talking purely about technique, his unpredictable attacks are even better than mine, and I'm his teacher. As for Handad, his swordsmanship is wild and powerful. With that massive sword of his, which is practically a blunt weapon, combined with his monstrous strength, he can smash enemies to a pulp. As long as those 2 fight together, they'll be unstoppable. It's the perfect combination of finesse and brute force. But the Count looked doubtful. Are they really that insane? And why haven't you mentioned the last one? When the final young man was brought up, the speaker suddenly became awkward. Compared to those 2, he's kind of like a little girl. The Count looked even more confused. Then why bring him along at all? The young man replied, because the 3 of them have been inseparable since childhood. Besides, those 2 geniuses alone are already more than enough to satisfy me. Before long, the 3 of them arrived at Ari Mine. As soon as they entered Ari Mine, they were surrounded by a group of goblins. Handad immediately drew his sword and prepared to fight. With a loud crack, one goblin was cut down on the spot. Raphael shouted at Handad, "Protect Flog first." Handad answered at once, "I won't let anyone touch a single hair on him." But the moment he said that, he turned around and charged straight into the goblin crowd. Flog was completely stunned by the sight. Didn't he just say he would protect me first? Didn't he say he wouldn't let me lose a single hair? Soon, the 2 of them wiped out all the goblins. Raphael immediately checked on Flog and asked if he was hurt. Then, he roared at Handad. "Didn't you promise me you'd protect Flog first? What if Flog had gotten hurt? Were you planning to atone with your life?" Flog stood beside them, watching the scene, but his heart slowly sank. The 3 of us trained together, so why are they so strong while I'm so weak? For someone like me with no talent for swordsmanship, what am I supposed to do to get stronger? Meanwhile, on the other side, the lizardmen's screams echoed one after another. "I really can't take it anymore. Please, let me go." "You're done already? Pathetic." Hanyul then looked at everyone beside him. He says he's done. A real man never says I quit. Since you say you can't, we're going to make you. The next moment, a ghoul lifted the lizardman in his hands again. "Let's do another 100 lower body push-ups." Time passed quickly, and soon the day came for the lizardmen to leave. All the ghouls gave them warm hugs and told them they were welcome to come back any time if they wanted to train. Parting was supposed to be sad, but the lizardmen's faces were filled with relief. Then they turned and left, wanting nothing more than to escape this cursed place as soon as possible. Even the ghouls on this mountain were covered in muscle. This was no place for weaklings like them. Hanyul thought back to how he had turned the ghouls into athletes through deload training, and even he found it unbelievable. When we exercise, muscle tissue gets damaged, and during the process of repairing that muscle, the muscle grows stronger. But if fatigue in the central nervous system builds up too much, it can hurt training performance and even increase the risk of injury. To prevent that from happening and avoid excessive fatigue, proper rest must be included in training. That is deload training. By the time the ghouls reached their 9th week of training, they also felt their strength gains slowing down. Han Yul had originally thought that if they ever reached the point where they needed deload training, he would give them a day off. But to his surprise, they gave out after only 4,563 reps today, even though they had managed 4,564 yesterday. But the next day, something miraculous happened. The ghouls seemed to have grown taller. Seeing this, Han Yul immediately activated Eagle Eye on the ghouls, and the display showed that they had evolved into ghoul athletes. After the lizard men left, Han Yul called the ghouls and led them back inside. Just then, one ghoul stepped forward and asked, "Can we go hunting by ourselves today?" Han Yul was just wondering if they were trying to use this chance to run away, when another ghoul spoke up. "Before this, we never beat a clucker even once. All the food we've eaten these past few days was brought back by Lord Han Yul. But now, I have ascended. I have abs, and I have chest muscles. This time, maybe I can really defeat a clucker." Hearing that, Han Yul nodded. "So they want to prove themselves. Fine, let them try." Just then, the old ghoul king muttered from the side, "Now that they're all ghoul athletes, do they actually have a chance?" Han Yul looked at him in confusion. "A chance against who?" The old ghoul king immediately waved his hands in panic, insisting he had no rebellious thoughts. "I only meant that now that they've become ghoul athletes, maybe they could even defeat Lord Han Yul." Han Yul chuckled and signaled for the old ghoul king not to panic. The next moment, he lightly tightened his hand. "In my eyes, all of you fitness beginners are still just lightweights. If you want to challenge me, you're welcome anytime." Soon, the ghouls set off on their hunting journey. They were panting heavily, unable to understand why a simple hunting trip had somehow turned into weighted walking lunges. One ghoul looked back at Han Yul in confusion. He had just tried to rest for a moment when he suddenly twisted his toe. The next second, he collapsed to the ground in pain. Seeing this, Han Yul was not too worried. Injuries like that happened because their cartilage was not tough enough. He then called over a few nearby ghouls and had them help the injured one up. Late that night, Flog was practicing swordsmanship alone. Earlier, Raphael and Handad had kept apologizing to Flog because they failed to protect him properly, and they even ended up fighting each other over it. That made Flog feel deeply guilty. All of this happened because he was too weak, making them think he could not protect himself. The next moment, Flog clenched his teeth. "I have to train harder. At the very least, I need to become strong enough that they don't have to worry about me." He swung the long sword in his hands fiercely, with only one thought in his mind. He had to become stronger. But the next moment, his sword hand was suddenly caught. Right after that, Raphael's voice came from behind him. "Grip harder with your thumb. Swing like you're trying to cut the wind itself." Flog looked back awkwardly. "Did I wake you up, Raphael?" Raphael shook his head. "Of course not, idiot." The next moment, he pinched Flog's cheek. "I also want my precious friend to become stronger. That's why even though you always sneak out to train at night, I've been pretending not to notice." Then he looked at Flog curiously. "Are you blushing?" Flog immediately shook his head. "I just trained too hard earlier." The next moment, Raphael burst out laughing, and Flog had no idea what he was laughing at. Just then, a sudden voice interrupted the warm moment between them. "What are you two doing here behind my back?" When Flog saw who it was, he cried out in surprise. It was Handad. Flog immediately explained, "We weren't doing anything. I was just practicing by myself, and then..." But before he could finish, Raphael pressed a finger against his lips. Raphael looked at Handad with clear displeasure. "You're the guy who almost let Flog get hurt. How do you still have the nerve to show up here?" Handad's blood boiled as well, and he gritted his teeth. "It's already late. If you don't rest soon, your body's reaction speed will slow down tomorrow. You need to let Flog sleep during skin recovery time. That way his skin will stay soft and fair." Just as Flog was about to ask what was wrong with his skin, Raphael pressed his finger tighter against Flog's lips again. "That part was my oversight." Then he looked at Flog, signaling that today's practice would end here, and that it was time to sleep. Flog asked in confusion, "Why are you two arguing over when I should sleep?" Raphael winked playfully. "Because we're best friends." Just then, violent tremors suddenly shook the ground. The next moment, a lizardman burst out of the forest and charged toward them. Right after that, a whole group of lizardmen ran out of the forest as well. Seeing this, The three of them were shocked and immediately drew their swords to fight. But the lizard men paid no attention to them at all. They just kept running straight past them. Ignore them. There are still those things behind us. Just then, a chorus of clucking filled the air. It turned out the lizardmen had been chased into a panic by a flock of cluckers. But behind the flock of cluckers was another group shouting in perfect unison, "Protein, protein, protein." They stared at the cluckers in front of them and let out evil laughs. "All this protein is mine." And so, without Hanyul himself even realizing it, a brand new food chain was quietly rising. But not long before that, they had still been nothing but trash. Now, they looked at the flock of cluckers in front of them with troubled expressions. Even Hanyul could not help asking worriedly, "Are you sure you can do this? Their chest muscles look way bigger than yours." One ghoul immediately jumped out. "Those are just show muscles." Hanyul exploded in anger. "Have some respect. We must respect every person who loves fitness." Just then, one clucker waddled toward a worm. The next moment, it stopped hiding its aura, and its overwhelming power burst out. Two nearby trees could not withstand the force and shattered with a crash. In the next instant, it pecked the worm in front of it straight into its mouth. The ghouls were stunned by the sight. They had actually called them show muscles earlier. They really had been living under a rock. Seeing this, one ghoul no longer hesitated and stood up. "I want chest muscles that perfect too." Then he walked toward the two trees behind him. His face was filled with determination. Clearly, he had made up his mind. The next moment, he used every bit of strength he had, veins bulging across his forehead. But the two trees did not move at all, leaving everyone shaking their heads in silence. Finally, he lowered his arms and sighed. "Give me a moment to rest." Then, another ghoul stepped forward to try. But even after using all his strength, he only made the tree shake slightly. The two trees still stood firmly in place. Seeing this, Hanyul waved him back. At this point, even Hanyul could not understand why they could not pull out a single tree. Just as Hanyul was wondering what was still missing, his eyes were drawn to the cluckers nearby. The flock of cluckers was rubbing against one another. Their tiny wings were competing in strength, and every one of them was giving it everything they had. Seeing this, Hanyul suddenly had a flash of inspiration and was deeply shocked. Because the ghouls had kept improving through training, Hanyul had overlooked one key issue. Hanyul immediately apologized. "This is my fault. Because of my oversight, they were able to do something you could not." Hearing that, the ghouls thought their form had been wrong. Hanyul immediately cut them off. "That's not the problem. The problem is that your muscles have already adapted to my workout routine." Hearing this, all the ghouls looked up in surprise. "That can happen? Then what do we do now? What else?" Hanyul shook his head. "Starting now, we change the workout routine." Then he gave them a wicked smile and called everyone to line up. Soon, the ghouls had gathered. Hanyul pointed behind him. "This machine behind me is a cable chest fly machine. To add variation to the routine your bodies have already adapted to, I personally made this for all of you. Now that you've heard that, clap 3 times to show some appreciation for your coach." The next moment, thunderous applause erupted from the ghouls. Hanyul then began explaining. "Starting now, to train everyone's inner chest muscles, we will begin cable chest flies. If you master this movement, you can build chest muscles that surpass the cluckers." Hearing this, the ghouls instantly erupted with excitement. "We want perfect chest muscles, like the cluckers too. As expected of our boss, he always solves our problems perfectly." Seeing this, Hanyul smiled. There really was nothing more satisfying than teaching fitness beginners. The cable chest fly is an exercise that effectively stimulates the inner chest muscles and makes the chest shape look more three-dimensional. But the movement only works if the form is done properly, which makes it slightly difficult for fitness beginners. That was why Hanyul had to teach them step by step. Step 1. Lean your upper body forward and bend your knees slightly. Step 2. Keep your arms slightly bent. Plant your feet firmly and maintain a stable torso throughout the movement. Step 3. Pull the cables toward the center of your body while slightly pushing your chest out. Use controlled force to move your arms as if you were flapping wings. Gather the force forward and cross in front. Step 4. During training, you can adjust the cable height and the angle of your lean to target smaller muscle groups in different areas. But never let the cables pull your center of gravity away. Your core and torso must stay stable. That's the full process. Hanyul looked at the ghouls. "If there are any details you still don't understand, ask me again." Then he pointed at the fitness equipment behind him, and the ghouls immediately erupted into cheers. "Move aside, I'm going first. No cutting in line. Don't rush me. Today, I'm building explosive chest muscles. Watching this, Han Yul smiled with satisfaction. Teaching fitness beginners really was a joy. A few days quickly passed. Ever since they listened to Lord Han Yul's advice, the ghouls had been smiling every day, and now they had developed ridiculously impressive chest muscles. The sight made the nearby flock of cluckers' hearts race. There are chest muscles in this world even more perfect than ours? Overwhelming jealousy made them gradually lose themselves. The next moment, golden light suddenly burst from their bodies. Han Yul was stunned by the sight. As the golden light slowly faded, even more perfect cluckers appeared before everyone. Han Yul stared at them and could not help exclaiming, "Did those cluckers' chest muscles get even bigger?" But the ghouls could no longer hold themselves back and charged straight in. The cluckers also rushed forward, determined to defend their territory to the death. In an instant, the two sides clashed. But even though the ghouls now had such perfect chest muscles, they were still no match for the cluckers. Han Yul immediately activated Eagle Eye on the flock of cluckers. To his surprise, while their chest muscles had grown larger, their bodies had also evolved, turning them into clucker masters. To stop these cluckers from evolving into clucker masters, one had to make sure their chest muscles did not grow too large. Meanwhile, on the other side, the old ghoul king had just woken up. He stretched lazily and sighed about how nice the weather was. Although he looked like he was bored and lonely, that was not the case at all. In truth, he had never felt this happy and free before. Just then, his stomach suddenly growled. Ever since Han Yul became the boss, everything had been great, except for the fact that his eating habits did not quite match the ghouls. So the old ghoul king prepared his own daily menu. Today's dish? Fried clucker skin. The ingredients needed were prepared clucker skin, graham flour, seasoned, liver-boosting salt, and oil. First, cut the clucker skin into pieces. And how should it be cut? Obviously, cut it until it cries, "Don't cut me, don't cut me." If fried directly, it would have a gamey smell. So add salt and deodorizing spices. Then knead it until it's a completely battered mess. Next, add the new spices into the grain flour and mix everything evenly. Once the magic powder is ready, sprinkle it over the clucker skin. Maybe after sprinkling it with magic like this, it can defeat Lord Han Yul. Finally, place the skin into the heated oil. The chicken skin that once clucked will now start crackling wildly. Once it is fried golden, take it out, and the steaming hot fried clucker skin is complete. This dish is my proud creation. It's no exaggeration to say it smells good enough to make the neighbors' kids cry. Meanwhile, on the other side, the ghouls were quickly defeated, one after another. Their faces were filled with disbelief. They had trained their inner chest and deep muscle layers exactly as Lord Han Yul taught them. So why still couldn't they beat the cluckers? Was the training method wrong? Or did the angle of their vision during training affect their movements? Just then, a loud shout interrupted them. "You're all wrong. There must be some deeper problem we need to fix." At that moment, Han Yul walked over. "Does no one here understand the reason? The effort you've put in, the length of your training, and the density of your workouts are all far behind the cluckers. You only trained like crazy for a few days, and you already think you can beat the effort they've poured in for their entire lives?" Hearing that, the ghouls lowered their heads in shame. It seemed those glorious chest muscles of theirs were not built in just a day or two either. But that doesn't mean there's no way. Han Yul's voice sounded again. The ghouls looked at Han Yul in surprise. "Are you saying we still have a chance?" "Of course. Think back to how you got here." Hearing this, the ghouls began remembering the past. "Move a little slower. Keep your steps in rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 2, 3, 4. "Tired, aren't you?" Han Yul asked, looking at one of the ghouls beside him. The ghoul jumped in surprise and quickly waved his hands. "Not tired at all. You're obviously exhausted. Looks like your willpower has gotten stronger too. No matter what, we have to keep using every moment to train like this. Only by becoming stronger can you escape the title of weakest, right? Back on Earth, I was the lightest athlete among those who could lift 500 kilograms. Even then, I still had to master the basics before I could truly show my strength. So no matter how tired you are, you have to keep going." And so, the ghouls erupted with fierce fighting spirit and stopped complaining. Remembering all of this, one ghoul slowly stood up. "I can feel the strength. Power is surging up from the foundation of my body." Seeing this, Han Yul smiled. "Looks like you finally understand. Your chest muscles may not beat theirs, but if you add solid glutes and legs," the next moment, the ghoul charged toward the flock of cluckers. His speed was incredible. With one explosive burst, he moved more than 10 meters. Seeing this, Hanyul smiled as well. Looks like your training has paid off. Now show everyone your effort and passion. The ghouls were fired up by his words and charged toward the cluckers one after another. The cluckers were furious as well, determined to defend their territory to the death. The next moment, they flapped their wings, and the ghouls were sent flying into the sky. Seeing this, Hanyul looked confused. Then he finally remembered that everyone had walked all the way here using lunges earlier, so their legs were probably completely dead. The ghouls were furious, but did not dare say anything. Why would you mention something that important only now? Then, Hanyul turned his gaze toward the flock of cluckers in front of him. The cluckers also noticed this man. His entire body was giving off the aura of a total weakling. The next moment, a dangerous look appeared in the cluckers' eyes. A flock of cluckers rushed straight toward Hanyul. Hanyul was surprised. Today's food is actually delivering itself to me. The next moment, he slowly reached out his hand. The leader clucker, caught in Hanyul's grip, instantly had its life flash before its eyes. It remembered itself when it first broke out of its shell and saw the world. It remembered growing up strong in its mother's embrace. It remembered standing on its own after becoming an adult. It remembered fighting desperately for the position of king. It remembered finally becoming the Clucker King. It remembered the first time it saw that man. It remembered being caught in that man's hand. And it remembered itself lying in a hot pot right now. At that moment, Hanyul stood in front of the giant pot and comforted everyone. Don't blame yourselves too much. As the saying goes, failure is the mother of success. Today, everyone should focus on getting enough protein. Tomorrow, I'll leave the hunting to you. Then, Hanyul raised the chicken breast in his hand. To become stronger, let's all give it everything we've got. In an instant, the camp echoed with a perfectly unified chant. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Oh, right. Hanyul's voice rang out again. Anyone who ate chicken legs just now, go do 300 push-ups first. And so, early the next morning, Hanyul ordered the ghouls to hunt on their own for the day. After reminding them to be careful, he continued his own training. But the results were not satisfying. The resistance of Hanyul's training rope might have been enough for the ghouls, but for Hanyul, it was still far too light. Thinking of this, he could not help remembering the old ghoul king. If only he were here to use his skill and multiply the gravity. If Hanyul had known, he would have brought him along. After learning that they would be hunting alone today, the ghouls quickly finished making their plan. With their current bodies, they had a solid chance of beating the cluckers. But if the cluckers suddenly evolved like they did yesterday, things would become uncertain. To play it safe, the ghouls decided to attack in 3 groups. If they encountered danger, they would use their chest muscles to send a signal. And if the situation became serious, one ghoul immediately praised the idea. You actually thought of using chest muscles to send signals. You're a genius. And so, after everything was arranged, the ghouls began running toward the flock of cluckers. Today would be the first step toward escaping the title of weakest. Meanwhile, the trio arrived at the place where Hanyul had defeated the Clucker King. But all they saw was a huge skeleton, with no skull in sight. Hamdad was confused. Was its head destroyed in one hit by some powerful magic? Flog became deeply worried. If the enemy can use magic like that, is this really something we can interfere with? Hearing this, the other 2 immediately stepped forward to comfort Flog. We won't let you get hurt. Just then, a violent rumbling echoed out. The 3 of them turned around in shock, and their instincts told them that something terrible was approaching. The 2 of them instinctively shielded Flog behind them and prepared for battle. The next moment, a flock of cluckers burst out of the forest. Seeing this, Hamdad let out a breath of relief. They're just cluckers. This will be easy. But the very next second, he froze in shock. Dozens of ghouls came leaping out of the forest right behind them. The hunting ghouls also noticed Hamdad in front of them and froze in place, wondering why humans were here. But the ghouls that had suddenly appeared made the trio's hair stand on end, as if they were facing a deadly enemy. Since the 3 of them had never seen monsters like this before, they immediately protected Flog behind them and stared at the ghouls with full caution. Seeing humans, the ghoul waved his hand again, signaling for his brothers behind him not to rush. These humans look like trouble. Let's watch from the side first and see what's going on. The next moment, his chest muscles began pulsing intensely, as if they were discussing something. The trio stared in confusion. What kind of trick is that? What they did not know was that the ghoul was using their chest muscle signal to call over the other 2 groups. But just as the ghoul's chest muscles resonated with his companions, those perfect pulsing chest muscles were all seen by the nearby cluckers. Their eyes instantly lit up with overwhelming excitement. The next moment, starlight flashed, and the flock of cluckers evolved once again, into Plucker Masters. The trio was shocked. These were actually the legendary Plucker Masters, creatures said to have combat power equal to a two-headed dragon. After completing their evolution, the Plucker Masters stopped running. Instead, they turned back and charged at the ghouls who had been chasing them, determined to compare chest muscles properly. The ghoul squad broke into a cold sweat at the sight. Just as they started wondering if they were going to lose this time, two ghouls suddenly burst out of the grass behind them. They were the second and third captains of the ghoul squad. At that moment, they had arrived with the other two teams. Right away, they prepared to fight the Cluckers in front of them. All they had to do was move forward. At this moment, even the smallest muscle fibers at the ends of their bodies were giving everything they had. Ghoul Athlete Bodybuilding Secret Technique. Cosmic Thunder Invincible Bench Press Spotter Assist. Once they used this move, they no longer had to worry about what was behind them. Now was the perfect time to use it. After all, this was a move they had learned from Lord Hanyul himself. At that moment, the ghouls unleashed limitless fighting power, determined to make the Cluckers feel the power of chest muscle resonance. In an instant, the Cluckers collapsed into chaos, and the ghouls absolutely wiped the floor with them. Seeing this, one ghoul smiled. At this rate, Lord Hanyul will definitely look at me differently. But then he noticed a problem. Everyone was using this move, but no one was there to spot him. At that moment, his heart filled with sorrow. But the next second, a smile appeared on his face. I may not have anyone to help me, but I'm still grateful to all of you for taking care of me this whole time. Everyone, I guess I'll just die then. Seeing him prepare to die heroically, the ghouls were horrified, but it was already too late to stop him. But right then, someone no one expected appeared behind him. 0.3 seconds. That is the amount of time humans need to decide whether they like or dislike someone after meeting them. And, from their first meeting until now, exactly 486 seconds had passed. That was how long it took for the trio to fully feel the deep inner resonance coming from the ghoul athlete's chest muscles. Unfortunately, that resonance also reached Flog. The group stared at the Clucker Master in front of them in shock. Its size was so massive that calling it bigger than a dragon would not be an exaggeration, and this dragon-level enemy was now glaring at them with clear hostility. Legend says the first dragon in the world appeared in the ancient era. That dragon was obsessed with honor, and in order to prevent its descendants from ever surpassing it, it made an extreme choice. It split its power into two, and that was how the dragon race and the Clucker race seen today came into existence. But Handad stared at the Clucker King in front of him, eager to fight. It may not be a real dragon, but if I defeat it, even Master will have to acknowledge me. The next moment, he raised his sword and charged at the Clucker King. Die, Clucker King. Meanwhile, Hanyul was still dissatisfied with the results of his own training. His chest muscles had grown a little during this time, but compared to the growth of the ghoul athletes, it paled in comparison. The moment he thought of the ghoul athletes, a smile appeared on his lips again. Fitness beginners really were so serious and adorable. By now, he had been in this place for over 3 months. Thinking back to the beginning, they used to cry over everything and were as weak as children. Every action had to be taught by him step by step. Of course, some ghouls had once thought about giving up, but in the end, they all held on until now, and not a single ghoul left. Those brats are the ones who got stronger, so why am I the one feeling mishappy? Hanyul did not quite understand it. Maybe this was what it felt like to be a teacher. Then he thought of his own master. He wondered how his master was doing now. Thinking of that, Hanyul suddenly realized something. His master had also disappeared around the same age as him. In an instant, a terrible thought crossed his mind. Could it be? But his thoughts were interrupted by a ghoul rushing over in panic. Hanyul looked at him in confusion. The ghoul was still gasping for breath, but he did not dare waste even a second, and immediately told Hanyul everything. It turned out that another group of Cluckers had evolved into Clucker Masters. Hanyul knew very well that the current ghouls could not handle Clucker Masters, so he immediately asked where the ghoul group was. After learning their location, Hanyul instantly prepared to go all out. At that moment, the system's voice rang out. Warning, energy overload detected in combat-only lean physique state. Remove combat-only lean physique? Hanyul's face was already filled with rage. They actually dared to touch my kids. The next moment, he chose to remove it. The instant his power was released, the ground beneath Hanyul cracked and collapsed. At that moment, he no longer hid his aura. His terrifying power made the air itself tremble. The next second, he bent his knees slightly, and the muscles in his legs and glutes instantly bulged. Then, with a light jump, his entire body shot straight into the sky. The sight left the ghoul completely stunned. as expected of Lord Hanyul. Meanwhile, on the ghoul group's side, the trio was locked in an intense battle with the Clucker Master. Facing such a powerful enemy, even the two so-called geniuses had to fight carefully. Raphael immediately gave Handad an order. Draw the Clucker Master's attention first. Leave the attack to me. Hearing this, Handad let out a roar and stabbed his greatsword into the ground. The next moment, he forcefully lifted the sword forward. He unleashed the long-lost secret technique, Rising Dust. After doing all this, he still did not forget to shout at Flog, telling him to retreat immediately. Hearing that, Flog's heart was instantly filled with warmth, but he still urgently told Handad to support Raphael and stop worrying about him. But when Handad turned around, he happened to see Raphael being swatted away by the Clucker Master. Even as his body rapidly fell through the air, Raphael still gave Handad a thumbs up. Nice job. Flog stared at the scene helplessly. Stop protecting me and use your real strength already. The thumb Raphael had raised trembled slightly. It seemed Flog had finally understood their good intentions. But Handad still shouted at Flog, "Run!" After fighting for so long, both of them knew very well that this monster was not something they could defeat. But Flog looked at the Clucker right in front of him and knew it was already too late to run. Still, it was too early to give up. Just then, a ghoul's voice rang out from the side. "Behold our ghoul bodybuilding secret technique. Final mystery. Cosmic Universal Thunder. Invincible full support formation." The massive target instantly drew the Clucker Master's attention. Seeing this, the ghoul captain gritted his teeth. They had to hold on until Lord Hanyul arrived. As long as they could last, until Lord Hanyul got there, they would be saved. We have to hold on. The next moment, the Clucker Master's giant wing came crashing down. The ghoul's final secret technique instantly collapsed. In an instant, all the ghouls fell to the ground, writhing in pain. The physical pain was bad enough, but the pain in their hearts hurt even more. Even after months of training, they were still this powerless against a chicken. Looking at Gorgos standing before him, the captain felt as if he had already foreseen his own death. But just as Gorgos was about to deliver the final blow to the ghouls, a sudden light flashed in the sky. The next moment, it slammed into the ground and crushed a Clucker Master to death on the spot. Seeing this, the ghouls were both shocked and overjoyed. It must be Lord Hanyul. We're saved. A figure slowly walked out from the dust. But the one who appeared was the old Ghoul King. The ghouls were stunned on the spot. Where is Lord Hanyul? Why is the old Ghoul King here? Meanwhile, somewhere else, Hanyul, the man all the ghouls had been waiting for, was standing in a pit with a gloomy look on his face. Damn it, I jumped to the wrong place. In the blink of an eye, he was also surrounded by a flock of cluckers. But seeing this, he did not panic at all. Instead, he sighed at the ghouls. I can't believe you trained for so long and still can't even beat cluckers. I'm disappointed in you. The sudden appearance of the old Ghoul King also shocked the trio. He did not have muscles as ridiculous as the other ghouls, but his aura was powerful. Just as the trio was wondering what was going on, a little ghoul beside them leaned in and explained, "He is the second strongest in our village, the old Ghoul King." At that moment, the cluckers were staring at the old Ghoul King beneath them with confused expressions. "What are you looking at?" The old Ghoul King sneered. "You think glaring at me like that will scare me? I came here after thinking this through." Hearing that, the ghouls immediately became excited. As expected of the old Ghoul King, he really is smarter than us. Hurry up and crush those damn things into the ground. Hearing everyone praise him, the old Ghoul King felt extremely pleased. Then he shouted toward the sky, "I've already made them angry, so please hurry up and come out to destroy them. Lord Hanyul, please come out." But no matter how loudly he shouted, only silence answered him. The scene was so awkward that everyone was practically dying of secondhand embarrassment. With no answer from the heavens, the old Ghoul King instantly panicked. Where exactly is Lord Hanyul? 6 hours earlier, back in the ghoul village, the old Ghoul King had once again slept until he woke up naturally. Life really had become comfortable. Unfortunately, the village food supply was already gone. The old Ghoul King was confused. Why had the hunting team not returned yet? He scratched his butt and prepared to leave the village to look for Hanyul. After all, the biggest threat outside, the Clucker King, was already dead. There should no longer be anyone capable of threatening him. But he never expected something like this to happen. 5 minutes earlier, he had heard the ghouls screaming. The old Ghoul King was immediately shocked. They dared to touch my and Lord Hanyul's subordinates? They deserved to die. Then, he walked toward a giant rock nearby. Only, Lord Hanyul and I are allowed to bully our subordinates. Although the old ghoul king had not joined the bodybuilding training like the other ghouls, his status had not fallen in the slightest. So how exactly had he maintained his position? Was it because his strength was greater than the trained ghoul athletes? Of course not. Was it because the law of the jungle mindset had changed? Of course not. There was only one reason. In order to adjust the training weights Hanyul had designed, the old ghoul king had been forced to keep activating his skill again and again. Before he realized it, he had trained his heavy blood skill to the highest level, and his own strength had grown as well. He immediately activated his skill. Heavy blood, 1/10. The enormous rock became as light as a feather in his hands. The next moment, he hurled the rock toward the cluckers in the distance. You damn cluckers, dare bully my and Lord Hanyul's subordinates? Die. Then he activated tenfold heavy blunt on the rock in midair. The giant rock that had been floating lightly through the sky suddenly plummeted downward. With a thunderous boom, it smashed into the ground, and one clucker died on the spot. Back in the present, the old ghoul king trembled as he looked at the scene before him. Looks like I'll just die then. Just then, the conversation among the ghouls behind him interrupted the old ghoul king's pose. At the very least, the old ghoul king defeated a clucker the moment he made a move. Doesn't that mean he's as strong as Lord Hanyul? Hearing that, the old ghoul king instantly felt confident again. Just as they said, not everyone could defeat a clucker with a single move. He had been destined to become the ghoul king from the moment he was born, naturally possessing skills that ordinary fools could never hope to reach. Thinking of this, his confidence instantly returned. The next moment, he actually started provoking the clucker master directly. But the clucker master only moved its body slightly, and he turned into a streak of light that vanished into the sky. The ghouls watched the old ghoul king disappear into the distance like a shooting star and broke into a cold sweat. Looks like we're really finished this time. The next moment, they forced themselves to regain their spirit. Even if we die standing. Then his chest muscles began trembling violently, sending a signal to the surrounding ghouls. In an instant, countless ghouls responded. The next moment, countless ghouls charged toward the cluckers. Even though the flock in front of them was radiating a dangerous aura, they showed no fear at all. Though the time had been short, they had truly tasted what it meant to be strong. If there is a next life, please train me again, Lord Hanyul. Meanwhile, on the other side, the old ghoul king who had been sent flying by the clucker landed right in front of Hanyul. The moment he saw Hanyul, the old ghoul king immediately told him everything that had happened. Hearing this, Hanyul's face remained calm, but inside, he was already filled with rage. His chest muscles suddenly began trembling violently. Even the unshakable calm skill could no longer suppress Hanyul's emotions. The system directly cancelled unshakable calm. At that moment, the ghouls were still locked in fierce battle with the cluckers. But the cluckers suddenly stopped paying attention to them and ran straight into the distance. The ghouls were completely confused by the sight. Where are they going? Meanwhile, on Hanyul's side, a violent tremor shook the ground. The next moment, countless cluckers surrounded him. They all stared at Hanyul with hostile eyes. Hanyul stared back at the cluckers before him, his eyes filled with rage. Just moments earlier, after the clucker masters ran off into the distance, the ghouls immediately prepared to follow the frequency of that chest muscle tremor, because they knew Lord Hanyul must have arrived. Flog looked completely confused. What do you mean, Lord Hanyul? The captain immediately leaned over and explained, he is our teacher, and also our captain. His muscle fibers are clearer than anyone else's, and our new ghoul king is none other than Lord Hanyul. Meanwhile, on Hanyul's side, the clucker masters stared at Hanyul's chest muscles with burning eyes. The next moment, they launched their attack. Chest muscles this perfect can only belong on my body. But Hanyul merely slapped once. The clucker master's body instantly caved in. The next second, it flew straight into the sky. The sight left the cluckers stunned. Such powerful chest muscles actually exist in this world. The next moment, their gazes burned even hotter, as if they had already claimed Hanyul's 2 chest muscles for themselves. Then their massive bodies vanished from where they stood. The next moment, they appeared in the air, their bodies spinning violently as they unleashed a fusion technique. Then their 2 giant claws stomped down toward Hanyul at the same time. Hanyul was stomped straight into the ground by the 2 cluckers. Did we get him? The 2 cluckers stared in uncertainty. But the next moment, they were shocked. Their 2 giant claws were being lifted up by Hanyul with raw strength. At that moment, the cluckers all broke into a cold sweat. What kind of divine strength is this? Just as Hanyul was about to break out of the ground, the clucker master suddenly let out a thunderous roar. The next moment, Several more cluckers stretched out their giant claws. Han Yul was pressed back underground again. Just as the cluckers thought they had succeeded, an explosion suddenly rang out. Han Yul blasted straight out from underground. He charged toward one of the cluckers. The next moment, he lightly kicked out. That clucker collapsed and could no longer get up. The remaining cluckers were horrified by the sight. "We are not worthy of possessing this human's chest muscles." At that moment, Han Yul's voice slowly rang out. So the clucker race used chest muscle tremors to stimulate muscle growth. Han Yul had turned that against them, deliberately using his own chest tremors to lure in the main force of the cluckers. Hearing this, the cluckers instantly broke into a cold sweat. They were filled with regret. This man did not just have muscles. He actually had a terrifyingly calculating mind. But Han Yul no longer wanted to waste words on them and leaped straight into the air. His fist smashed down hard onto one clucker's head. In an instant, that clucker was sent flying with a single punch. At that moment, the muscles across Han Yul's body began bulging violently. The next second, he brought both hands together and swung forward with full force. Countless cluckers were launched straight into the sky. A second later, they all crashed to the ground. The cluckers stared at the man before them with fear in their eyes. If they could do it all over again, they would never provoke this man. Just then, Han Yul suddenly lifted a nearby tree. The next moment, he jumped into the air and performed multiple flashy spins. Then, in midair, he unleashed his special move, triceps overhead extension. He smashed the wooden trunk in his hands straight into the flock of cluckers. In an instant, another clucker collapsed to the ground, completely unconscious. The ghouls who had rushed over happened to witness this scene, and their faces were filled with shock. Even dragon-like magical beasts trembled before him. Could he be a monster disguised as a human? Han Yul's battle was not over yet, but deep down, he was growing anxious. To get here as fast as possible, he had used a super jump earlier, and now his lower body was gradually losing strength. But if he gave up here, he would never be able to face the companions who had kept helping him adjust his training weight. At this point, his only choice was to risk everything and wipe out the cluckers all at once. Looks like I have to use that move. Han Yul immediately asked the god of fitness to release all restrictions. Then he let out a furious roar. Warning: lower body can no longer support upper body muscle mass. Immediately isolate the upper body. Lower body has reached its limit. Immediately isolate the upper body. Muscle tearing imminent. Immediately isolate the upper body. Just as Han Yul's muscles reached the brink of collapse, countless hands suddenly pressed against Han Yul's broad back muscles. Han Yul looked back in surprise and saw that the ghouls had all arrived at some point. They looked at Han Yul with smiles on their faces. Lord Han Yul has always been the one helping us. This time, let us spot you. At that moment, Han Yul smiled. Then let's show the cluckers the power of a master and his disciples fighting as one. The next moment, Han Yul swung his hand forward with full force. The cluckers instantly collapsed and could no longer get up. After dealing with the cluckers, everyone fell weakly to the ground. Only Han Yul still had a smile on his face, because today's workout had left him very satisfied. We avenged you, old ghoul king. You can rest in peace now. Hearing this, the ghouls beside him immediately began whispering. Now that I think about it, before Lord Han Yul came, he was pretty harsh on us. But after submitting, he wasn't that bad. Yeah, he even helped me cook clucker tendons last time. Exactly. From now on, we brothers should take good care of his wife and daughter. Before their whispers could even end, Han Yul suddenly frowned. If the old ghoul king was gone, who would help him adjust his training weights from now on? His gaze swept across the area and landed on the ghouls who had been chatting so enthusiastically. The ghoul who had been talking non-stop a moment ago instantly trembled and turned away, acting like he had heard absolutely nothing. These ungrateful bastards. Han Yul gritted his teeth. Just wait until we get back. I'm going to train you properly. Just then, a figure plopped down beside him. Han Yul was immediately confused. Can ghouls turn into ghosts after they die? The old ghoul king awkwardly scratched his head. I'm not dead yet. Since I left everything to Lord Han Yul anyway, I simply took a nap. Those words instantly filled everyone with joy, and they charged at the old ghoul king like cannonballs. The next second, they pinned him beneath them, making him howl in pain. The corners of Han Yul's mouth also lifted. Looks like he no longer had to worry about losing his weight adjuster. Meanwhile, at White Kingdom Wyvern Fortress, the trio had already reported everything they saw on the front line to the Count without leaving out a single detail. After hearing it, the Count's brows twisted into a knot. The ghouls themselves were not much of a threat. But that demi-human had defeated Gorgos with his own strength, and there were other races eyeing the surrounding territory. This was trouble. He let out a heavy sigh. They needed to think carefully about how to deal with that man. The young general beside him asked in confusion, "Where is Flog? Weren't the three of you so close? You could share the same diaper for a whole day?" Those words instantly struck the two where it hurt. Tears streamed down their faces as they bawled their eyes out. Flog was taken away by that demi-human. It turned out that Hanyul had immediately seen Flog's potential as good fitness material and insisted on taking him away. Naturally, the two refused and attacked Hanyul on the spot. But their attacks were like children throwing punches in front of Hanyul. Even Handad's proud greatsword was easily caught by Hanyul without him even turning his head. We couldn't beat him. We could only watch Flog leave with him. As they remembered how wronged they felt, the two cried even harder. "Master, you have to save Flog from that monster." Hearing this, the Count turned his head in surprise. "I do not know much about it, but I believe I have heard that this is a kind of black magic. That warrior is certainly pitiful, but we cannot start a war so easily." After saying that, he looked at the general. "Besides, your master is not someone who would be swayed by personal feelings like this." But the moment he finished speaking, a thunderous boom rang out, and the general's aura erupted. Her eyes became as sharp as blades as she gritted her teeth. "They dared to provoke me." The Count weakly raised a hand and asked, "What exactly did they do to provoke you?" The general answered firmly, "Provoking my disciple means provoking me, and provoking me means they want to die." The Count stood there dumbfounded and silently pulled his hand back. The general said no more and turned around, calling the two to head toward Ari Mine. It seemed the discipline of Ari Mine needed to be properly reorganized soon. Meanwhile, at the ghoul training ground, Hanyul was preparing to begin a new day of training. Since Flog had joined as a newcomer, the first lesson would start with squats. Flog looked completely confused. "What the heck is a squat?" Hanyul's face immediately filled with a kind smile. "It's fine if you don't understand. Come here, I'll teach you." The squat is the foundation for stabilizing loaded weight, and it is also the best movement for strengthening the quadriceps. As he spoke, he placed a hand on Flog's shoulder. "Now, try squatting down." Flog shakily squatted, his face full of confusion. "What is the point of doing this?" "It's simple. You squat down, then stand back up," Hanyul explained patiently. "Later, we'll be doing this movement while carrying weight, so your form has to stay stable to avoid injury. Place your feet hip-width apart and keep your knees pointing in the same direction as your toes. Use your hips and knees to lower yourself. Then drive through your glutes and thighs. Drive upward and push the floor away." Flog tried it once. Hanyul immediately gave him a thumbs up. "For your first time, that was pretty good. Have you trained in anything before?" Flog answered shyly, "Just a little swordsmanship." "Then try squatting again." As Hanyul spoke, he picked up the barbell in front of him. "Grip tight and brace your core. This thing isn't light." The moment Flog nodded, the barbell was placed on his shoulders. The weight felt like a small mountain, making his face instantly turn pale as he nearly dropped to his knees. "Bro, don't be scared. Stand up slowly." Hanyul's voice came at just the right time. Flog clenched his teeth, his face turning bright red. Using every bit of strength he had, he forced himself to stand up. Seeing this, Hanyul immediately took the barbell back. The ghouls around them burst into cheers and applause. As expected of someone trained in swordsmanship, he's way stronger than us. Hanyul looked at Flog with satisfaction in his eyes. His strength had clearly reached its limit just now, yet he still managed to keep his form stable. He really is perfect fitness material. My eye for talent never misses. Then he looked at Flog and asked, "You're training with me because you want to become as strong as your friends, right?" Flog immediately clenched his fists, his eyes burning with determination. "I want to become as strong as them too." But Hanyul let out a soft sigh. "Unfortunately, you can't become like them." The light in Flog's eyes instantly dimmed, and his voice sank. "So everyone really thinks that too? I know. No matter how hard an ordinary person like me works, I'll never catch up to those geniuses. But still, thank you for being willing to train me." But before he could finish, Hanyul cut him off. "What I mean is, you'll become stronger in a different field. You don't need to envy their swordsmanship. In my eyes, you have the best talent." Flog suddenly raised his head, tears instantly filling his eyes. The next second, he actually started blubbering. You're the first person besides my friends to acknowledge me." Hanyul patted his shoulder. "Stop crying. If you cry too much, you're losing your games." And so, without Hanyul even realizing it, his eagle eye skill quietly advanced to level 3. Early the next morning, Han brought over a pile of clucker chicks. Han explanation was simple. We can't rely on hunting forever. The chicken breast on this mountain will run out sooner or later. While food still isn't scarce, we should try becoming self-sufficient. The old ghoul king looked at the chirping chicks with worry all over his face. Cluckers do grow fast, and raising them isn't hard. But there aren't many monsters in Ari mine that can beat them. Right now, we're a little stronger than they are. But if they evolve one day, no one except Lord Hanyul will be able to control them. You can't do it? Hanyul's eyes instantly turned cold as he stared him down. The old ghoul king swallowed, trembling inside. Am I supposed to be able to do that? But looking at Hanyul's expression, which practically said he would be killed if he dared to say no, he still answered shakily, I can do it. That's more like it. Hanyul immediately burst into laughter. I almost couldn't stop myself from taking you out just now. Soon, the sound of training shouts echoed through the training ground again. Everyone gathered around the barbell, focusing on the feeling of activating their quadriceps. Hanyul watched the scene with a satisfied smile on his face. The old ghoul king stood beside Flog, using his skill to help adjust the weight. Teaching fitness beginners really was a joyful thing. Suddenly, a thunderous boom shattered the peace of the training ground. The blast wave sent the nearby ghouls tumbling in every direction, leaving them completely confused. What the hell? Barbells can explode now? The old ghoul king also looked lost. I've never heard of that. Just then, a figure walked up to the old ghoul king. She stared at him with icy eyes. Are you the monster who randomly stole my disciple? The old ghoul king broke into a cold sweat and quickly waved his hands. It's a misunderstanding. This is all a misunderstanding. Besides, I'm the one whose position got stolen. Enough nonsense. The general cut him off impatiently. Just answer me, yes or no. Before her words even finished, her sword sliced toward the old ghoul king with a sharp gust of wind. With a loud boom, dust filled the air, and a deep trench was carved into the spot where the old ghoul king had been standing. But there was no joy on the general's face. Instead, her gaze sharpened, because her sword had been blocked by a single hand. Hanyul held back the blade with one arm, his face dark. Even dogs know better than to interrupt right training. You've got some nerve. Both of them were shaken inside. The general was shocked that this demi-human could block her sword with his bare flesh. Hanyul stared at the thin line of blood seeping from his arm and was secretly startled. This lady is something else. She actually made me bleed. Just as the two were locked in a standoff, two excited voices came from behind the general. Flog, Raphael, and Handed looked at Flog in the distance, and tears instantly streamed down their faces. During the days without Flog, they couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, and every single day felt like an eternity. The general looked at Flog, then at Hanyul, and quickly understood what had happened. Hanyul raised an eyebrow and looked at Flog. She really is your master? Flog stammered for a long time, unable to form a complete sentence. I just feel like fitness is more interesting than swordsmanship. Hanyul cut him off. Just tell the truth. What's so hard to say? Flog took a deep breath, as if he had finally made up his mind. He bowed deeply to the general. Master, I'm sorry. Right now, I like fitness more than swordsmanship. I'm sorry you had to come all this way, but I have a new master now. The general listened with a calm expression, but the corner of her mouth suddenly curved into a smile. The next moment, her aura surged again. Since my disciple has made the wrong decision, it is naturally my duty as his master to correct him. The next second, her body flashed, and she unleashed her hidden trump card. Old Monk draws the sword. Hanyul's eyes sharpened, and he immediately switched into bodybuilding stance. The muscles across his upper body instantly swelled with blood, and veins bulged across his arms. The next moment, the general's sword slammed hard into his arm. But even though her strike landed, her eyes widened in shock, because the sword had only left a shallow scratch on Hanyul's arm. Such a powerful body actually existed in this world. She turned to Flog. So this is the kind of body you want to forge? Flog nodded hard, his eyes filled with admiration. A body like that is just so badass. The general sighed helplessly and looked at Hanyul. In that case, I'll have a match with you. Whoever wins will prove that their training method is stronger, and they will have the right to take Flog. But Hanyul shook his head. No, lady, you don't understand at all. Fitness is not martial arts. It is a way to burn yourself, challenge yourself, and refine your character. Then, when you used fitness to catch the Clucker King before, wasn't that for battle? That was for survival, and for protein. Hanyul's tone was calm. I only fight to survive. The general immediately sneered. By that logic, fitness is just a useless training method, isn't it? Those words instantly ignited Han Yul's anger. But the general casually waved her hand. I know you're mad, but just chill. What's the point of just burning yourself and challenging yourself? Basically, fitness is trash, right? The instant the general finished speaking, a blinding light suddenly erupted from Han Yul's body, illuminating the entire training ground. From within the light, a taller and more shredded figure slowly stepped out. His muscle lines were as sharp as if they had been carved by a blade, and every inch of his skin was filled with explosive power. The pressure radiating from him made everyone present hold their breath. Han Yul's eyes were now as sharp as an eagle's as he looked at the general. Now, let me teach you what real fitness is. Battle mode activated, lean physique and tall mode engage. I'll be merciful and let you witness what true fitness looks like. By now, the ghouls had already formed a row and were silently enjoying the show. Who do you think is stronger, Lord Han Yul or that human woman? One ghoul sneered. Can't you see the difference in their physiques? To Lord Han Yul, that human woman probably doesn't even count as an opponent. But Flog interrupted him with a serious expression. Master is one of the 10 strongest people on this continent. You can't judge her by size alone. Meanwhile, Han Yul stared at the data shown by Eagle Eye with confusion. Weight, 67.2. Skeletal muscle mass, 32.7. Body fat mass, 9.2. Body fat percentage, 13.6%. Her skeletal muscle mass is that low. So how did she manage to leave a wound on my body? Before Han Yul could solve that question, the general's voice reached him again. She asked curiously, what power does this fitness of yours actually hold? But before Han Yul could answer, the air around her suddenly grew turbulent. The next moment, she appeared above Han Yul and launched a fierce attack. But every strike was blocked by Han Yul's iron arms. The general could not help marveling inside. Such a powerful body actually exists in this world. Even so, her attacks did not stop, and she continued striking at Han Yul. Demi-human, as your senior among humans, I have a few words of advice for you, the general spoke while attacking. Han Yul was completely confused. What kind of normal person talks this much during a fight? Do you know why, even though your body looks so human, I still insist on calling you a demi-human? Han Yul replied, I'm not curious at all. The next moment, his massive fist shot straight toward the general, but she flew aside and dodged. Her voice rang out from above, because red mana is surging around you. The next moment, the general turned in mid-air. The closer one is to the demon race, the clearer that red mana becomes, and your fighting style as well. Humans do not possess techniques that transform the body like that. After saying this, the general attacked Han Yul again. The moment her immense power touched the ground, cracks spread across the earth. But Han Yul used his special move, Rising Diagonal Flying Kick, and avoided the strike. The next second, he flipped once in the air and landed steadily. His face was full of anger. The body changes through effort. Do you not even know that basic fact? The general shook her head. Only demi-humans like you have skills like that. Humans use sword techniques or mana. As she spoke, powerful magic erupted around her once again. Secret art, Mountain of Blades swordsmanship. After saying that, the general sheathed the sword in her hand. But the instant the blade entered the sheath, countless phantom blades suddenly appeared around Han Yul. Han Yul looked at the scene and broke into a cold sweat. The general's voice reached him again. Humans compensate for the strength they lack before entering a duel. As soon as she finished speaking, countless phantom blades attacked Han Yul. Faced with such a relentless barrage, Han Yul could not dodge them all. Teaching people fitness is nothing but wasted effort. Do you understand what I meant now? To humans, fitness training is garbage. Even if you're calculating how to defeat me in your head, you can never win against Y. The general, who spent every day thinking about swordsmanship, looked down at Han Yul lying on the ground, as if she were staring at trash. Han Yul lay on the ground, but slowly began pushing himself up. Do your opponents never improve? Do you know how much stronger the opponent you meet today might become by tomorrow? Hearing this, the general curled her mouth into a cold smile. I don't care. Since I met him today, I won't give him the chance to see tomorrow's sun. After saying that, her aura gathered once again as she unleashed her sword technique, Mountain of Blades swordsmanship. The next moment, Han Yul sprang up from the ground. In an instant, every muscle on his body swelled to its fullest. He had entered bodybuilding stance. Front double biceps. The general's attack came right after, but Han Yul's face was filled with unyielding determination. Those of us who train our bodies will always defeat the version of ourselves that was stronger than yesterday. no matter where we are. The next moment, Han Yul also unleashed dense reps. In fitness, a rep meant one repetition within a set of training movements. As soon as he spoke, Han Yul's body kept growing, becoming larger and larger. Now it's my turn to school you, lady. Meanwhile, on Flog's side, Raphael and Handad had also arrived. Their faces were full of hesitation and embarrassment. At first, they had only wanted to see Flog as soon as possible. So, they brought their master with them. They never expected things to turn into this. We came looking for you, like this. You must think we're idiots and hate us now, right? Flog looked completely confused. How could I hate you over something like that? But Raphael and Handad truly believed that they had pressured Flog too much, and that was why he had left them. Flog shook his head and said that was not the case. I only came here because I wanted to learn fitness. Once I finish learning, I'll go back to the village, and Lord Han Yul already agreed. Hearing this, the two instantly shook off their depressed expressions, leaving Flog confused. Could practicing swordsmanship also help people switch up that fast? But Raphael and Handad did not care what Flog was thinking. They immediately asked what he was learning here through fitness. Handad also said he wanted to experience what fitness felt like. Flog shook his head and said he had only just started learning too. Then he looked toward the old ghoul king nearby. Can you help me with something? The old ghoul king immediately nodded. Yes, I can. Flog instantly looked delighted and turned to the two of them. Do you remember what Master said was the most important thing when we first started learning swordsmanship? Raphael immediately raised his arm. The lower body, correct. The exercise we're learning now also uses the lower body, especially this area. It is the squat, an exercise that effectively trains the quadriceps. Lord Han Yul said beginners should start with safe and familiar form, but to make things a little more interesting. After saying that, Flog added more weight to the barbell. The old ghoul king grew worried at the sight. Starting with that much weight? Are you three really brothers close enough to share the same diaper? But Flog gave a simple smile. It's fine. I'll spot them from behind. Meanwhile, on Han Yul's side, the general was enduring punch after punch from Han Yul. His attacks had a rhythm to them. More importantly, every time Han Yul punched, he shouted 1, 2, 3, 4. This made the general furious. If you're going to hit me, then hit me. Why are you warning me every time you attack? Why are you holding back? But Han Yul shook his head. I'm not holding back. Just as the general was about to continue scolding him, Raphael and Handad's voices came from the side. The general looked over in confusion. The next moment, her face suddenly turned red. No, by this point, Raphael and Handad had already taken off their shirts, fully revealing their upper bodies. The sight made the older lady feel both embarrassed and excited. She wanted to look away, but her eyelids refused to listen. What kind of training method is that? Why is it so easy on the eyes? They are doing squats to failure. It is one type of fitness movement. But doing it like that will cause injuries. At this point, the general no longer looked as arrogant as before. I think fitness can be added to my training program. Hearing this, Han Yul also released battle mode, but he still asked the question on his mind. What exactly is fitness in your eyes? Of course, it is hot, sticky passion, and the sight of people drenched in sweat while enjoying themselves. And so, the two of them reached an understanding through fitness. Soon, everyone set off on their journey toward the White Fortress. At that moment, Han Yul's gaze was drawn to the muscles on General Luin's arms. Your forearms are pretty strong. What kind of exercise did you do? General Luin said she had not done anything special. She simply practiced swinging her sword every day. I suppose that counts as a form of training. There is something I want to ask you. You're teaching such an impressive training method to others without asking for anything in return. Are you truly fine with that? Han Yul waved his hand. Of course I'm fine with it. When it comes to fitness, the more people doing it, the better. That answer left General Luin confused. Who wouldn't hide something valuable, afraid that others might learn it? But Han Yul looked completely unconcerned. If more people start training, there will be gyms wherever I go. And if more types of exercises are researched, training can become even more efficient. If I get the chance, I also want to spread fitness culture throughout Asia. Hearing this, General Luin fell into thought. It seems you are more interesting than I expected. I admire you. When we meet the Count later, I will ask him to grant you a favor. The road to the White Kingdom was long. When night fell, the group set up a temporary camp nearby. At that moment, Flog came to Han Yul with a serious expression. Lord Han Yul, you may not know this, but the White Kingdom, where I live, is a country with a very severe discrimination problem. The people there discriminate not only against races other than their own, but also against mages and heretics. They are only friendly to their own people, especially swordsmen. Young people, like me, aren't really like that. but I'm worried that Lord Han-Yul and the ghoul athletes might feel uncomfortable there. Hearing this, Han-Yul nodded. That is indeed a major problem. Flog suggested that perhaps it would be better to visit after some time had passed. But Han-Yul turned a deaf ear to him and walked straight toward a feed cart beside the stable. The next moment, he entered the stable and stuffed a mouthful of feed into his mouth. The sight shocked everyone around him. As expected of an uncivilized savage, he was actually eating livestock feed. But at that moment, Han-Yul looked as if he had just tasted a rare delicacy. He was deeply moved by that rough, dry texture. This was the raw ingredient for oatmeal. Oats. Such a clean carbohydrate. And yet, only horses were eating it. That was a serious problem. The people of the White Kingdom were shocked, again when they saw how much he was enjoying it. A monster really was a monster. Even his eating habits were this low class. If a monster heard those words, even it would feel hurt. At that moment, the old ghoul king walked over and scolded the two of them. Then he took out his own meal. I improved your field rations a little. Try some. Looking at the food handed over by a monster, the two of them were extremely reluctant, but they could not resist the delicious smell. The next moment, they put the food into their mouths and began chewing slowly. Then both of them were shocked. A sweet flavor and a pleasant hint of spice quietly burned across their tongues. There was even a roasted aroma that stirred the hunger hidden deep inside their hearts. This familiar flavor tasted just like their mother's cooking. The two immediately gave the old ghoul king a thumbs up. The old ghoul king said smugly, "Once we get a little closer, I'll tell you the recipe, so do not say discriminatory things about monsters again." Meanwhile, Han-Yul had already gone to find General Lewin. General Lewin asked curiously what he needed from her. "Do you remember saying earlier that you would grant me a favor?" The general nodded. "I've already decided." The next moment, Han-Yul opened his palm, revealing a small handful of feed resting inside it. "I want to obtain this grain." General Lewin was not too confused by this. "I saw you raising cluckers earlier. Do you want to feed this to them? Of course we're going to eat it ourselves." General Lewin broke into a cold sweat. "Although this is your request, asking me to give you livestock feed to eat feels a bit awkward." "Exactly, Lord Han-Yul." At that moment, the ghoul squad captain also walked over to Han-Yul. "She looks like someone with real authority. How can you waste such a great opportunity on livestock feed?" The moment those words came out, Han-Yul immediately grew irritated, his face filled with dissatisfaction. General Lewin chimed in. "They're right. No matter what request you make, I'll agree to it. This kind of treatment is not something just anyone can receive. I can replace the tents you live in with log houses, or give you naked guys properly fitted and stylish adventure outfits. Besides, as long as our food includes clucker chicken breast, isn't that enough? Isn't that Lord Han-Yul's favorite protein?" Hearing this, Han-Yul immediately felt a headache coming on. "Looks like I really need to educate you all. Eating only protein is harmful to the body, especially because it puts a heavy burden on the liver. But if you take in the right amount of carbohydrates, they can turn into glycogen and help your muscles produce explosive power. Oats, in particular, are complex carbohydrates. Since they digest slowly, they keep you feeling full much longer. They are low in calories and rich in many nutrients. Back on Earth, where I used to live, oats were even known as the king of grains. So tell me, what reward could possibly be better for the body than oats?" Hearing this, Lewin and the others fell silent, because they had absolutely no idea what he was talking about. But the ghouls were trembling with excitement. "So that's how it is. From now on, we'll start loading up on oats. We're going to grow muscles, ridiculously huge muscles." The surrounding White Kingdom soldiers watched this unfold. They gritted their teeth in frustration. Could this be the secret that allowed that demi-human to fight General Lewin? They could not accept humans losing to monsters, so they decided to eat it too. The moment Han-Yul finished speaking, Flog had already started shoveling it into his mouth. Handad and Raphael watched from behind and gulped. "If even Flog is eating it, we should try it too." And so, in the next instant, a crowd gathered around the horse trough. There were ghouls devouring it like starved beasts, soldiers who did not want to lose to monsters, and of course, a horse that had been eating peacefully, only to be interrupted and left completely confused. But the next moment, everyone spat out their mouthfuls. "This tastes awful." Raphael swore he had never eaten anything this terrible in his entire life. But, while wiping his mouth, his eyes were drawn to Flog across from him. At that moment, Flog was happily munching away on the feed. Flog, spit it out too. "This stuff tastes so bad, even the ghouls spat it out." But Flog smiled brightly. "I think it tastes pretty good. It's nice and dry, and the texture isn't bad either." Han-Yul saw everything. He really has a talent for eating. He'll bulk up in no time. It's honestly kind of motivating. At that moment, General Lewin also walked over. I'm still not sure what Hanyul was talking about earlier, but since all of you seem satisfied, I'll actively persuade the Count to meet your conditions. Hanyul immediately brightened up. General Lewin, you really are a good person. The next day, Hanyul and his group soon entered the White Kingdom. Along the way, Flog's expression remained extremely serious. Lord Hanyul, just like I told you yesterday, this is the White Kingdom. It is the most notorious country on this continent for its prejudice and discrimination. The moment Hanyul's group stepped through the gates of the White Kingdom, the ghouls were immediately surrounded and stared at like animals in a zoo. The voices of the White Kingdom people kept reaching the ghoul squad captain's ears, making him deeply uneasy. Just then, Hanyul's large hand suddenly landed on his shoulder. Why are you just standing there? Hurry up and strike a few poses for them. What do you mean? The ghoul squad captain asked in confusion. Hanyul immediately explained, it's because you guys are too shredded. That's why they can't stop staring. Hearing this, the ghouls instantly understood. So, that's what it was. Flog stood to the side, completely dumbfounded. That is definitely not it. The next moment, the ghouls took a deep breath. Then, they began flexing their ridiculous chest muscles to the people of the White Kingdom. The sight left the citizens of the White Kingdom completely dumbfounded. They truly could not understand why these monsters looked so happy. Soon, everyone arrived at the White Kingdom Palace. General Lewin had already reported the whole situation to the White Kingdom. The Count sat high on his throne and looked down at them, asking, so you mean after you finish teaching fitness, you will leave this place? Hanyul immediately nodded. And the only payment you want for the training is livestock feed? Hanyul nodded again, then stood up and said, it's not feed, it's oats. Oatmeal, a proper meal. But in the Count's eyes, this was nothing but rude behavior. What a lowly race. I only allowed you monsters into the city out of respect for the general. If the general had not personally asked me, I would have had the guards stop you outside the gates. General Lewin immediately bowed and thanked the Count for his generosity. The next moment, the Count roared, so you had better live quietly and not cause any trouble. Once you finish teaching that thing called fitness, leave immediately. Hanyul pumped his fist and replied, no problem, Count. Once you're done with your work, you can come train with me too. I'll give you coaching lessons. The Count ignored him completely and turned away, ordering the two to leave. After the two left, the Count's face twisted with anger. These people were far too arrogant. The next moment, he collapsed back onto his throne. General Lewin's popularity was far too high. He had been worrying about how to win back the people's support. What perfect timing. After thinking so hard for so long, the solution had practically fallen into his lap. He immediately waved his hand. Someone call the Clucker Mercenary Corps here. General Lewin, the guests you invited have accidentally become the perfect leverage against you. Soon, General Lewin brought Hanyul to the soldiers' training ground. Everyone, stop what you're doing. Today, we will be holding a special training course. The person beside me is the special instructor invited by General Lewin, the Ghoul King, Hanyul. The soldiers were instantly confused. The Ghoul King? Wasn't that a monster? Why would they ask a monster to teach us? The instructor said, I understand that many of you are dissatisfied, but disobeying this order means violating military law. I hope all of you think carefully before acting. Hello, everyone. Hanyul stepped forward. I am your special fitness instructor. My name is Hanyul. I don't like the look in your eyes. Everyone, prepare for push-ups. The soldiers were completely lost. What the hell were push-ups? Hanyul immediately got down on the ground. You little brats, all of you get down. The ghouls had already dropped behind Hanyul the instant he finished speaking. Most of the White Kingdom soldiers hesitated, though a few slowly got down on the ground. Hanyul looked at them, his face filled with anger. Why aren't you down yet? What are you waiting for? Someone watched the scene and let out a sneer. What a ridiculous sight. Are we all supposed to listen to that monster now? The instructor immediately said, during training, the monster's orders are equal to the general's orders. That is the rule here. But the man waved his hand dismissively. Instructor, do you really think that too? Do you truly believe that a monster's words are equal to the general's words? Hearing this, the instructor fell silent. Seeing that, the man immediately shouted to the people around him. Everyone, get up! Are you really going to listen to a monster? Do you have no pride as humans? Seeing this, Hanyul slowly stood up, his face full of irritation. What the hell are you trying to pull? The man casually waved his hand. There are far too many problems here. First, we will not obey a monster's orders. Second, I feel that the fitness you teach has no practical use. Why should we ignore useful swordsmanship and learn some other kind of training? As he spoke, the man placed his hand on his sword hilt. The next moment, he drew his blade. And third, the most important point. As humans, we do not want to take an uncivilized monster as our master. Fearing that Hanyul would explode in anger, the old Ghoul King had already stepped in front of him. I can handle this. Then he pointed at Flog beside them. For the first problem, we can simply have Flog conduct the training in our place. That way, you will be following a human's instruction, not a monster's command. For the second point, none of you have even learned fitness, so how would you know it is inferior to swordsmanship? Why don't we monsters and you humans each choose one representative for a match? As for the third point, whether we are truly uncivilized or not. The old Ghoul King's expression gradually turned cold. That is something we will only know after the match, won't we, you filthy humans? Then, he looked back at the ghouls behind him. Is everyone ready? The moment he finished speaking, the ghouls answered with a perfectly unified chant. Seeing this, Hanyul felt deeply satisfied. These guys were definitely worth the effort. Good. I accept your proposal. Instructor, do you agree as well? Hearing this, the instructor finally nodded. Seeing the instructor nod, the man immediately stepped forward. I'll represent the human side. Who are you monsters sending out? As soon as he finished speaking, one ghoul strode out from the group. At that moment, the man was already laughing inside. These idiots really think I'm just an apprentice, don't they? How pitiful. I'll show you exactly why the Clucker mercenary corps personally hired by the Count is so infamous. The next moment, the man stomped heavily on the ground. Then he turned and charged straight at the ghoul. Die, you filthy monster. Seeing this, the ghoul did not panic at all. He slightly bent his arm and unleashed the legendary martial technique, one-arm dumbbell front press. With a loud bang, the man boldly caught the ghoul's punch with his face. And in the next instant, the man was blasted into the sky by the ghoul's enormous force. By the time he landed, his face could barely be recognized as human. Hanyul immediately frowned. You used too much strength. Did you get stronger just to show off your power? What if you accidentally killed him? Facing Hanyul's scolding, the ghoul weakly said, I'm sorry. Hearing this, Hanyul also waved his hand a little awkwardly. It's not entirely your fault. I didn't expect him to act so tough when he's actually this weak. Then, Hanyul walked up to the White Kingdom soldiers. Since your representative lost, behave yourselves and train with me. Just then, the man who should have lost consciousness suddenly curled the corner of his mouth. Sword technique. As soon as he spoke, powerful energy erupted from his body, and the wind around him began to hum. The next moment, he launched himself forward, his long sword slashing straight toward the ghoul in front of him. The ghoul sensed danger and turned to look behind him, instantly terrified. For a moment, he even forgot to dodge. At that critical moment, the old Ghoul King activated tenfold heavy blunt. The next instant, the man was crushed to the ground by an immense force and could no longer move. Hanyul immediately darted forward. He lightly patted the man's chest with his palm. The instant Hanyul's palm touched his chest, the man flew away like a cannonball. With that seemingly light slap, Hanyul embedded him straight into the wall. The enormous impact made his whole body twitch uncontrollably. At that moment, General Lewin also arrived outside the training ground. She walked inside with excitement all over her face. How was Hanyul's training going? How many chest muscles would she get to see this time? But all she saw were neatly dressed soldiers, looking ahead and murmuring to each other, leaving the whole place buzzing with noise. The scene from moments earlier had frightened the surrounding soldiers. Convinced that raw strength alone couldn't achieve something that terrifying, they assumed magic had been used. The next moment, General Lewin drove her sword into the ground. The loud sound instantly drew everyone's attention. When the instructor and Hanyul saw who had arrived, they quickly ran over. General Lewin looked at the instructor with displeasure. I do not quite understand what is happening here. Report to me. The instructor immediately straightened his posture. Some apprentices believed they should not obey instructions from monsters, so both sides sent representatives for a match. After our soldier lost the match, someone protested that the ghoul had cheated by using magic during the duel. Hearing this, General Lewin turned her gaze to Hanyul. You did not use magic during the match, did you? Hanyul immediately shook his head. I don't know how to use that stuff. He says he did not. General Lewin's gaze turned back to the instructor. The instructor instantly broke into a cold sweat. I also believe he probably did not use magic during the duel. But before the instructor could finish, someone interrupted him. It turned out the Count had also arrived. I happened to pass by and heard something unbelievable. General, do you actually believe what those monsters say? Shouldn't you be standing on the same side as us? The the people of the White Kingdom? Or are you choosing to stand with those lowly monsters?" Hearing this, the general immediately broke into a cold sweat. "Of course I stand with the people of the White Kingdom." But the Count's face grew colder and colder. "And yet, you now believe the nonsense spoken by those monsters." Just then, Hanyul walked forward. "You're here for coaching lessons, right? Get off the horse first." But before he could get close to the Count, the old Ghoul King quickly pulled him back. The old Ghoul King hurriedly said, "General Lewin, I believe Lord Hanyul means no harm. This should be a misunderstanding. Lord Hanyul, please stand behind me for now." After Hanyul stepped back, the Count turned his gaze to General Lewin again. "You should know that I value your talents, correct?" The general immediately nodded. "Of course I understand." Hearing this, the Count's expression turned cold once more. "But the guests you brought back have caused trouble for our nation. Not only did they harm the young apprentices physically and emotionally, they also created conflict and chaos among them. As the lord of this nation, I cannot simply overlook this matter." The next moment, his gaze turned even colder. "I have decided that General Lewin will take full responsibility for this incident. You are sentenced to 2 years of exile." Hearing this, General Lewin's expression instantly turned icy. The sight terrified the Count. "She isn't thinking of killing me, is she? So scary." Just then, countless voices rang out behind General Lewin. "Count, you can't do this. Then let us execute those monsters instead. Please withdraw your order." Countless voices entered General Lewin's ears. The next moment, she smiled. Then she turned toward the crowd. "All of you, be silent. You dare defy the Count's order? Can you still call yourselves soldiers who protect this nation?" But the soldiers still looked deeply unwilling. "Of course, we would never disobey the Count's order, but treating the general like this is just..." Before he could finish, General Lewin cut him off. She had thought they were nothing but brats who only knew how to discriminate, yet now they could even talk back to the Count. It seemed they had improved at least a little. In that case, she should remove herself as their support stake first, so these young seedlings could have a chance to grow on their own. The next moment, General Lewin turned and bowed to the Count. "Thank you, Count. Then I shall take your consideration as an excuse to rest, recover for a while, and return to the kingdom later." The Count nodded expressionlessly. "That scared me to death. That glare from her almost made me wet myself." After that, Lewin turned her gaze toward Hanyul. "I'm sorry, Hanyul. I brought you here, but I won't be able to look after you." In the end, Hanyul only smiled and said it was fine. After all, workouts did not always go according to the schedule. Seeing this, Lewin turned her gaze back to the Count. "May they still continue teaching here for 3 months, according to the original plan?" The Count nodded. "I will honor that agreement." Hearing this, Lewin finally felt relieved. "Good. At least the most basic arrangement has been set. I wonder what effect this new variable will have on these young seedlings who long for change. When I return to the kingdom, things should be very interesting." Thinking of this, General Lewin could not help bursting into laughter. The sight left everyone stunned. Had General Lewin gone insane because she was exiled? Soon, night fell. Outside the walls of the White Kingdom, a figure slowly walked out. It was the Clucker mercenary who had provoked the ghouls during the day. At that moment, he wore a smile, his face full of satisfaction. If jobs like this came more often, he would not have to risk his life fighting goblins anymore. Since Belle likes flowers, maybe I should open a flower shop. As the man thought about it, his cheeks actually turned red, as if he were imagining something wonderful. Then he opened the pocket watch in his hand. "Honey, sweetheart, wait for me just a little longer. Daddy will be home soon." But the man far away had no idea that his wife and daughter would never be able to wait for him again. Flames had already swallowed that village. The villagers, lucky enough not to be burned to death by the fire, had turned into zombie-like walking corpses, constantly attacking the surviving villagers. This entire scene was seen by a man standing on the mountaintop. As he watched it all, a sick, twisted smile appeared on his face. Then he turned around with a look of delight. "Long time no see, Elige. Look, our hometown is welcoming us with such passion." After saying that, the man once again revealed a sick, twisted smile, but in only an instant, he returned to normal. Then, he extended his hand with an unnervingly gentlemanly gesture. "My princess, would you dance with me?" The girl named Elijah looked at the man before her and fell silent for a moment. The next second, she placed her hand in his. Then, 2 figures began dancing gracefully at the edge of the cliff. A beautiful song drifted down into the valley below, into that sea of fire that looked like hell itself. Even though Bainal had just injected countless potions into his own body, the Count's heart sank as he watched Bainal rapidly swell before his eyes. Even though he had prepared for the worst, he never expected Bainal to use his own body for the experiment. Looking at Banal's hideous, twisted face, the Count forced himself to calm down. It seemed his condition was not very stable either. Then the Count glanced to the side, secretly alarmed. Since battle was now unavoidable, he had to deal with Banal before anyone else could disrupt the situation. With that thought in mind, the Count fixed his eyes on Banal before him. He took a slight step back, then activated his skill and stomped heavily on the ground. In an instant, his body appeared above Banal's head, and he raised his sword to slash down at him. But when Banal saw this, he simply swatted at him casually. The Count was sent flying backward even faster than he had charged in. After crashing to the ground, the Count's face was filled with disbelief. That strength and speed were simply ridiculous. But before he could regain his stance, Banal was already charging toward him with a massive fist raised. Seeing this, the Count was shocked and immediately dodged aside. The next moment, Banal's fist smashed into the spot where the Count had just been standing. Having successfully avoided the attack, the Count let out a breath of relief. If that strike had landed, he would have been dead for sure. The next moment, he raised his sword again and slashed down at Banal below. In response, Banal let out an angry roar, clenched both fists, and swung them toward the Count. The sight terrified the Count. He could not push off anything in midair, so there was no way to dodge this attack. At the critical moment, all the strength in his body gathered once again. He planned to activate his skill and take Banal's attack head-on. But just as the Count thought he had blocked the strike and could finally breathe, the overwhelming force contained in Banal's fists smashed him straight into the ground. In an instant, heavy clouds of dust rose from the earth. The Count sat weakly on the ground, staring at the monster before him, as his entire body trembled uncontrollably. At that moment, he could not even grip his sword. Only now did he realize he had been wrong. The monster before him was not an opponent he could handle. Even if Banal had obtained his power through improper means, that power was still far too overwhelming. Just then, a smile suddenly appeared on Banal's face. I knew that was what you were thinking. You people are always like this, shutting yourselves away, clinging to outdated ideas, and rejecting everything beyond swordsmanship. That's exactly why you've become so stupid. You have no idea what benefits the development of civilization can bring. After all this time, you have not improved at all. You're nothing but a bunch of idiots. Hearing his beloved swordsmanship insulted like this, the Count forced himself to raise his head. You know perfectly well how strong General Lewin is. How dare you be so arrogant? Banal only sneered. Of course I know how strong General Lewin is. But Count, do you know what an average is? Why don't you turn around and look at the battlefield behind you? Hearing this, the Count looked back in confusion. But the scene before him made his eyes widen in horror, and every hair on his body stood on end. Countless soldiers were being wiped out in front of him like toys by the subordinates Banal had brought. Those well-trained soldiers were completely powerless, as if they were nothing more than playthings. And the soldiers, lucky enough to survive Banal's subordinates, were immediately surrounded by endless zombies. In the end, they too would become new zombies and join Banal's forces. As the Count watched this scene, fear and rage crawled into his heart at the same time. His trained elite soldiers were falling just like that. At that moment, even the will to resist began to fade from him. Banal watched the scene and clicked his tongue in boredom. Now it's time to send you on your way. The next moment, Banal's massive fist swung toward the Count. Just then, a flash of sword light appeared and shot straight toward Banal's body. Then, a voice rang out. It turned out the Count's young secretary had arrived. His face was filled with urgency. Count, please retreat first. I will hold them off here. After receiving no reply for a long time, he turned back in confusion, only to see that the Count had already run away without even looking back. The sight froze both of them in place. Speechlessness instantly covered the young secretary's face, and in only 0.1 seconds, he had cursed the Count's entire bloodline in his heart. The next moment, Banal could no longer hold back and burst into laughter. I'm terribly sorry. I usually don't laugh, but this time I truly couldn't help it. So this is the Count you risked your life to save? But what can one person like you possibly change? Everyone, retreat. Hurry and retreat, the young secretary screamed at the top of his lungs. Although the Count had deeply scarred his fragile little heart, the young secretary quickly calmed down and began giving orders. We have already lost. Everyone, run back to the White Kingdom. Hurry and follow the Count. As long as we make it back to the White Kingdom, we still have hope. After doing all this, the young secretary turned his gaze back to Banal. As long as I am here, I will not let you take another step forward. But before he could finish speaking, Banal's massive fist completely buried him, and he never made another sound. Only a broken sword remained, proving that he had once been there. Should we chase them? One of Bainal's subordinates asked, while looking at the fleeing soldiers. Bainal, whose body was gradually shrinking, shook his head. No need. We already know where they're going anyway. That foolish count will definitely gather everyone together again in order to defeat us. Wouldn't that save us a lot of trouble? Meanwhile, on the count's side, even though he had already fled far away, his heart was still filled with terror. Just thinking about the scene from earlier made his heart pound like a drum. That was definitely not an opponent he could defeat. What could he possibly do to beat them? Then the count looked at the soldier retreating beside him. Can someone report the current state of the army to me? As soon as he finished speaking, a man rode over on horseback. I am the captain of the 20th squad. My name is Lu Ming. In this operation, out of 400 soldiers, 347 were killed or infected. 27 were wounded, and only 26 are completely unharmed. After hearing this, cold sweat ran down the count's face as he kept thinking. There were still 100 soldiers guarding the city. Even if they included the apprentices and wounded soldiers, they only had 126 people capable of fighting. Thinking of this, the count could not help cursing under his breath. 400 soldiers had already failed. With only 126 left, how were they supposed to deal with them? Seeing this, Lu Ming asked weakly, "Should we recall General Luan?" "There's no time," the count shouted anxiously. "Even if you send someone to find her right now, she can't return immediately." Just then, Lu Ming offered another suggestion. "Should we ask the monsters currently living in the city for support?" Hearing this, the count looked over in confusion. "The monsters?" Lu Ming nodded. "I heard their leader Hanyul once fought General Luan, and the two of them were evenly matched. We allowed them to live in the city and provided them with food and lodging. If we use that as a reason to demand their support in battle, I do not think they will refuse." Hearing this, the count nodded thoughtfully. Using monsters to fight monsters? The next moment, the gloom in his heart disappeared, and an excited smile appeared on his face. "Very good. From now on, you will be my young secretary." 3 days later, the count and his group finally returned to the White Kingdom territory. As soon as they returned, the count rushed straight to the training ground without stopping. "Stop training. Everyone, gather immediately." Hearing this, everyone looked over in confusion. Today's training was not finished yet. Seeing that no one had stopped what they were doing, the newly appointed young secretary immediately stood up. "Why are you still standing there? Are you trying to disobey the count's order?" Everyone had no choice but to reluctantly put down their training equipment and slowly walk toward the count. The count looked at Hanyul with arrogance in his eyes. "You are that demi-human named Hanyul, correct?" Hanyul nodded. "Are you here for my training class?" The count was instantly speechless inside. "Can you please stop bringing up that training class of yours? You lowly monsters have been living comfortably here, enjoying free food and lodging. Now it is time for you to repay my kindness. I order you to immediately obey my command and eliminate the zombie army currently gathering outside the city." But the ghouls before him looked completely confused. They were all thinking, "What the hell is this old man talking about?" Seeing this, the count's heart sank. Looking at their blank expressions, do these things not understand what I'm saying? However, the count could not give up just yet. The next moment, he pointed at the ghouls again and said, "I will allow you, who are discriminated against everywhere, to die under the name of glorious sacrifice, especially your leader, Hanyul. I will even grant him the rights of a White Kingdom citizen. Do you know what that means? It means you will be able to freely show off your bizarre fitness here." But before the count could finish his passionate speech, Hanyul interrupted him. The ghouls took a deep breath. The next moment, they all raised their powerful arms and flexed their perfect chest muscles. The sight left the count completely stunned. "What are you doing? Did you still not understand what I just said?" "Of course, we understood." Hanyul stepped forward with a smile. "This is bodybuilding, one of the most important forms of fitness knowledge, and this is what you call a true bodybuilding flex." Hearing this, the count flew into a rage. "I don't have time to fool around with you. If you don't obey my order right now..." But before he could finish, Hanyul interrupted him again. "If we die or get seriously injured, how are we supposed to keep training these guys? If our muscles start wasting away, are you going to take responsibility?" Seeing Hanyul's furious expression, cold sweat instantly ran down the count's face. Although he had no idea what Hanyul was talking about, that angry look and overwhelming pressure made one thing clear. If he did not apologize now, he was probably going to die. "Fine. I was wrong. I sincerely apologize for what I just said." After saying that, the count called his newly appointed secretary and turned to leave. He was afraid that if he stayed even 1 second longer, he would die right there. Are you really not going to try persuading them again? The young secretary asked with worry all over his face. With only our own forces, this city may be in danger. But the Count was already gritting his teeth in fury because of Hanyul's group, and signaled for the secretary not to bring it up again. I never expected them to help in the first place. Summon General O's. The young secretary was shocked. Are we really summoning General O's? The Count nodded. His character may be terrible, but his strength is barely comparable to General Lewin's. After he arrives, gather all our forces at the city gate. It is time to show those zombies what real technique looks like. Before long, countless zombies surrounded the city gate, packing it so tightly that nothing could get through. The Count looked at the dark, endless horde and could not help swallowing hard. In contrast, General O's beside him looked completely calm, as if everything was under control. I heard one of you has a leader who can actually think. Don't you want to have a proper talk? As soon as he finished speaking, several figures walked out from the zombie horde. What do you mortal flies want to say to me? Banal slowly walked out from the crowd and asked with an impatient expression. Seeing the enemy leader step forward, General O's pointed at himself. Your forces may be large, but we are all strictly trained soldiers. Getting past us will not be that easy. So why don't you send one representative to duel me, the representative of the White Kingdom? Hearing this, the bored look on Banal's face immediately turned into a smile. That sounds fun. I accept your proposal. General Oz instantly revealed a scheming smile. I knew you would agree. The next moment, he leaped down to the ground. Then, who is my opponent? From within the zombie horde, a huge humanoid figure slowly approached. Its blood-red eyes stared straight at General O's. Looking at the prey before it, the creature let out a series of indescribable sounds. You're pretty big, I'll give you that. General O's looked completely disdainful. Now, let's see if you're all show and no go. After saying that, he charged toward praying with his greatsword. In the next instant, General Oz's massive blade slammed hard into Prang's body. But the muscles on Prang's arm swelled violently, and it blocked Oz's attack with its body. Well, you're tougher than you look. General Oz spoke in a mocking tone, then raised his greatsword again. Then let's see how long you can keep taking it. As soon as he finished speaking, the greatsword came down with even greater force and struck Prang's body again. Prang stared viciously at the man who kept attacking it. The next moment, its tiny, baby-like mouth opened, spewing a glob of unknown liquid as it counterattacked Oz. But this carefully prepared strike was easily dodged by General Oz. The liquid landed on the ground and made a sizzling sound as it corroded the surface. General Oz looked at the substance spat out of the creature's mouth with confusion. Then he turned his gaze back to Prang and studied it curiously. In more than 20 years of military service, this was the first time he had seen a zombie this massive, let alone one that could spit something from its mouth. At that moment, he developed an unmatched interest in the zombie before him. Being stared at by General Oz made Prang feel a chill in his heart. What was with that burning gaze? Was this guy sick in the head? The next moment, his body kept backing away. His instincts told him that if he did not run now, his backside would be in danger. This left Oz completely confused. Why was it running away all of a sudden? You little rascal. Do you want to play chase with me? Then I'll gladly play along. After saying that, he chased after Prang with a wicked smile. Prang was shocked, but in the next moment, a smile appeared at the corner of its mouth. When something strange happened, there had to be a trap. General Oz, who had spent more than 20 years fighting on battlefields, immediately became alert. Just then, an axe flew in from the distance, cutting through the air as it shot straight toward Oz's face. General Oz was shocked, but his hand had already raised his greatsword by reflex and split the incoming axe apart. You dare interfere with a sacred duel? Oz was furious. After saying that, he raised his sword and charged toward the zombies. But in the next moment, Banal's fist slammed hard into the back of his head. Banal's face was filled with mockery. Sacred duel? What are you even saying to a bunch of zombies? Do you know why I accepted your proposal? Because you're the only knight in this country. You didn't even realize you had already been surrounded by us and just stupidly chased after Prang's backside. Calling you an idiot would be an insult to idiots. In the blink of an eye, General Oz was pinned beneath Prang and beaten to a pulp. The arrogance he had earlier was completely gone, and he could only weakly beg for mercy. The sight made the Count and the others break into cold sweat. It seemed General Oz had lost too. But the truly terrifying part came next. Oz, whose face had been beaten into a swollen pulp, was picked up by Prang. Then, Prang tossed him high into the air, playing a game of toss like with a toddler. But waiting below to catch him were countless zombie mouths. And so, the zombie army gained one more zombie named Os. There was no hope left. Watching this from afar, the Count's heart sank completely. Even General Oz was finished. Just then, Banal arrived at the city gate. "Count, why don't you just surrender? If you open the gate and let us in now, I can specially spare your life." "Stop talking nonsense," the Count shouted in fury. "Do you think I would abandon the people of the White Kingdom and hand them over to an inhuman scumbag like you?" Banal waved his hand indifferently. "Looks like negotiations have failed, but that doesn't matter. I never plan to spare them anyway." After saying that, the smile on his face instantly turned cold, and he pointed toward the gate of the White Kingdom. "Now, it's time for us to go in." As soon as he finished speaking, countless zombies roared and charged toward the White Kingdom gate. "Fire arrows! Hurry and fire!" the Count shouted anxiously. The soldiers beside him clumsily drew their bows and nocked their arrows. But the massive zombie horde was not something a few bows could stop. The young secretary, who had stayed beside the Count, was also filled with anxiety. "Count, what should we do now?" Hearing this, the Count slowly turned his head. But what he said left even the young secretary completely stunned. I don't know. I don't know either. Stop asking me." After saying that, the Count ran off. The young secretary stared at his back with only one thought in mind. "Coward. You are nothing but a coward." Running away is the kind of thing only a coward does. Was the young master's flaw that he had too many useless worries? I actually think running away should be counted as your strength. After all, as long as someone runs behind you, they will probably be safe. Save me, Count. Please save me. I don't want to be someone who only runs away either. I am the one who least wants to run away. Who could understand how heavy the responsibility of being Count truly is? Have any of you ever thought about my position? But even if I am a coward who cannot properly bear that responsibility, I still want to desperately protect the people who matter. Han Yul, please save us. I was wrong. I should not have looked down on fitness, and I should not have underestimated you. I'm sorry. Even if you want to kill me, that's fine. I only ask you to protect my citizens and my soldiers. Please help this country. I'm begging you. The Count groveled helplessly on the ground. Then, Han Yul's voice reached his ears. "You suddenly rushed in here. What kind of nonsense are you talking about?" Helpless and confused, the Count raised his head. All he saw was that man's powerful back. "I don't really know what nonsense you were saying just now, but I can take it as you saying you want to start fitness, right? I'm not interested in your life, but I won't go easy on you when it comes to your personal training fees. Prepare yourself." After saying that, Han Yul led the ghouls toward the city gate. Behind them, the Count stared at Han Yul and his group as they walked away, completely confused. He truly could not understand it. Earlier, they had looked like a bunch of uncivilized fools, yet now, somehow they seemed so tall, powerful, and badass. Soon, Han Yul and his group marched out of the training ground in a grand formation. But the situation was urgent. Han Yul ordered the ghouls to run there using interval training. The next moment, the ghoul group began a high-intensity sprint. This exhausted the old ghoul king until he was panting like a dog. He looked at the massive group charging ahead of him and felt helpless inside. Did these undead really not know what it meant to respect the elderly and care for the young? Meanwhile, on the other side, the ghoul group had already broken through the city gate. A mother shut her eyes tightly and held her child close, waiting for death to arrive. The next moment, countless chaotic noises rang out. It turned out Han Yul had arrived with the ghouls. The child opened his eyes curiously, and the scene before him left him completely awestruck. After clearing out the zombies, Han Yul continued rushing toward the city gate. "If I learn swordsmanship, can I become as strong as them?" the child asked while watching Han Yul's group leave. The woman looked at Han Yul and the others from behind, then shook her head. "That was not swordsmanship, my child. After the war ends, let's ask them together what kind of skill that was." Soon, Han Yul arrived near the city gate. The dense zombie horde before him filled his eyes with concern. Are these zombies? Their bodies look seriously dehydrated. Just then, the old ghoul king also arrived. After doing what felt like a lifetime of exercise in one day, he was already exhausted like a dog. Panting heavily, he explained to Han Yul, "Their race is called zombies, but they have no intelligence left now. Nothing but surplus flesh. You can treat them as moving dead bodies, so there is no need to feel guilty when attacking them." After saying that, the old ghoul king asked Han Yul how he planned to deal with them. Hearing this, Han Yul looked toward the city gate. Perfect. They're pouring in through the entrance right now. The next moment, His chest muscles began bouncing violently. Why don't we use our chest muscles to push them back? Hearing this, the old ghoul king fell silent. Was this really a battle strategy that a carbon-based life form could come up with? What does your silence mean? Do you have a problem with my method? You can say it if you do. You know I'm very democratic. The old ghoul king immediately waved his hands in panic. I'm sorry, I have no problem with your idea. You are outstanding. You are a genius. Han Yul was extremely happy to hear this. Seeing Han Yul smile so brightly, the old ghoul king asked if he could take command of this operation. Han Yul nodded, signaling that he could do whatever he wanted. After that, he joined the battle. After receiving supreme command, the old ghoul king immediately became smug, unable to stop the smile from spreading across his face. But soon, he calmed down again. Now is not the time to get carried away. Everyone, split up. Team 2, go protect the citizens in every corner of the city. Teams 3 and 4, climb the walls and assist the human soldiers in fighting the zombies. Team 5, help Lord Han Yul push the zombies back outside. After saying that, he looked toward Han Yul. At that moment, Han Yul alone had already blocked a crowd of zombies outside the gate. There was no need for Team 5 at all. The old ghoul king was not surprised by this. After all, that was Lord Han Yul, the man with a brain inside his muscles, and he was absurdly powerful. Just then, a sudden voice interrupted the old ghoul king's thoughts. It turned out the count had also arrived. He shouted anxiously, ordering everyone to block the city gate. Even if Lord Han Yul pushes the enemies back, if even one zombie slips through a gap, the entire city will be in danger. But the young secretary weakly said, the gate has already been smashed apart. There is nothing left to block it with. Hearing this, the count was shocked. But just then, everyone heard Flog's voice. Flog and several ghouls were carrying a massive sphere toward them. Han Yul's name was written on it. It was the dumbbell ball Han Yul used for training. Everyone was stunned. This was what General Lewin called lacking talent? How could he even carry something that huge? Seeing this, Han Yul nodded with satisfaction. This kid had finally learned a proper lunge squat. Flog, you guys go on ahead. Just then, one of the ghouls carrying the dumbbell ball suddenly spoke. My quadriceps are about to give out. I can barely lift my legs anymore. Flog was shocked. No, senior, the gate is right in front of us. You have to hold on until the end. The ghoul was covered in cold sweat, but he still forced a smile and pushed himself to keep up with everyone. I know you're thinking about your senior, but if I overtrain, I might get injured. And if I get injured, I won't be able to train tomorrow. Leave me behind and keep going without me. After saying that, the ghoul could no longer hold on and collapsed to the ground with a thud. Senior, Flog shouted anxiously as the pressure suddenly increased. If you do this, how are the rest of us supposed to carry it? Flog was instantly crushed by the suddenly increased weight until he could barely breathe. But the next second, his vision suddenly became clear. Why did everything suddenly become clearer? It turned out the old ghoul king had arrived and activated Heavy Blunt. Even so, although the original 100-ton weight had been reduced to 10 tons, the exhausted group was still crushed until they could barely breathe. Keep going. You can do this. The old ghoul king encouraged them while maintaining his skill. You've already come this far. Are you really going to give up halfway? Can you live with yourself? If you quit now, stand up. I believe you can stand up. I absolutely believe you can do it. Flog and the ghouls finally carried the dumbbell ball to the city gate. They looked at one another and smiled, their eyes filled with recognition for each other. Han Yul saw everything from the front and smiled with satisfaction. People who refuse to give up really are badass. The old ghoul king stepped forward once again. Everyone except Team 2, take Lord Han Yul's place and push the zombies back. As soon as he finished speaking, countless ghouls sprang into action. Are we doing this right? One ghoul asked Han Yul while pushing the zombies back. Han Yul reminded him, engage your glutes a bit more. The moment Han Yul said that, the ghoul's glutes began firing intensely. At that moment, the young secretary on the watchtower reminded everyone, do not let the zombies bite you. Once you are bitten, you will become one of them. The young secretary had barely finished speaking when, with a sickening crunch, a ghoul was bitten by a zombie. I can feel something hot pouring into me. In an instant, the zombie toxin spread through the ghoul's entire body. The next moment, that ghoul seemed to go berserk. He threw his head back and howled wildly. Stop acting. We're already undead. How would we even get infected? Is this fun? Do you want to act it out too? The young secretary was left completely speechless. Were these ghouls actually enjoying themselves? Meanwhile, on Han Yul's side, a massive group of zombies suddenly rushed in. They stared at Han Yul's shining muscles as if they had found their ultimate purpose in life. The next moment, they bit down hard on Han-Yul's shoulder. But Han-Yul's body was completely unharmed, and even several of the zombies' old teeth shattered. This is seriously worrying. Do none of you take calcium? Then, Han-Yul casually threw out another light punch, and the zombie died on the spot. From a distance, Banal took in this entire scene. Aren't they demi-humans and ghouls? Why are they helping humans? The next moment, he pointed at Han-Yul's group. You lot, go. As soon as he finished speaking, giant zombies and hounds charged toward Han-Yul's group. But Handad and Raphael, who had been waiting for a chance nearby, saw everything. Below the wall, the Count saw this and anxiously ran up to the watchtower. Lord Han-Yul. He is the mastermind behind this entire incident. But the dense zombie horde blocked Han-Yul's view. I can't see anything. Keep moving forward and you'll see him, the Count shouted. He has blue hair. Han-Yul nodded, then looked at the ghoul beside him. Then I'll leave this place to you. Go without worry, Lord Han-Yul. The next moment, Han-Yul's aura suddenly surged. Now, it's time to use this move. Reverse, peck deck fly. As soon as he spoke, the countless zombies in front of him were pushed aside, one by one. The Count stared at this godlike display and broke into a cold sweat. Is this fitness? Once the war ends, I need to learn it too. Meanwhile, Han-Yul had already parted the zombie army and was slowly approaching Banal. Watching this, Banal could not help breaking into a cold sweat. How can these useless things fail to stop even one person? They're all useless, aren't they, Elijah? Hearing this, Elijah gave a slight nod. Banal sighed helplessly. I didn't want to appear this early. In hero comics, aren't heroes supposed to show up at the very end? But I suppose there's no helping it. After saying that, Banal walked toward Han-Yul. But when Han-Yul arrived before him, Banal plunged countless vials of serum into his own body again. Han-Yul watched the figure before him, constantly changing shape, and scratched his head in confusion. What are you doing? But before Han-Yul could stay confused for long, Banal completed his transformation and charged toward him. Seeing this, Han-Yul charged toward Banal as well. In an instant, the two of them interlocked their fingers. But there was not the slightest trace of affection in their eyes. Why did you come to ruin our plan? You're not even a monster. I heard someone was bullying my future fitness students, so I came to see who was so impressive. After saying that, Han-Yul forced his hands down hard, and the sound of bones cracking rang out instantly. The pain of his bones being crushed made cold sweat pour down Banal's face, and then Han-Yul pinned him heavily to the ground. Banal's face was filled with disbelief. Is this a human or a monster? How can he have strength this ridiculous? But before he could even catch his breath, Han-Yul's large hand clamped tightly around his throat. So you're the guy bullying my future fitness students? But Banal answered Han-Yul only with dead silence. Han-Yul couldn't care less either way. Finally, after struggling for 2.5 minutes, Banal slowly lost his strength. At that moment, with Han-Yul gripping his neck, Banal had no moves left. Han-Yul asked coldly, "Are you done?" Han-Yul stared coldly at Banal beneath him. "Then it's time for you to die." As soon as he finished speaking, Han-Yul's muscles swelled again, and his arm tightened around Banal's neck. Activate mountain climber mode. In an instant, Banal was dragged over 100 meters by the neck. Seeing this, Elijah was shocked. Banal was in danger. A shadow suddenly wrapped around Elijah's body. Then the figure of a cyborg appeared before everyone. I will eliminate every threat. After saying that, Elijah ran toward the mountaintop. Suddenly, a flash of sword light appeared. A figure stood in Elijah's path. Who are you? Elijah looked at her in confusion. She had never seen this person before. I am Lewin's niece, Rhine. After saying that, Rhine continued attacking Elegy. For a moment, Elegy was forced into a panic. Sensing that things were going badly, Elegy looked toward the hound beside her, signaling for it to go help Banal first. Hearing that, the hound turned and ran toward Banal's location. Rhine sneered. You actually sent your helper away? Do you really think you can beat me with those pathetic skills? Elijah stared coldly at Rhine. Of course I can. After saying that, she took the initiative and attacked Rhine. Meanwhile, on the ghoul side, the old ghoul king was commanding the battle inside the city wall. Team 1's mission was to check whether any zombies had been left behind inside the city. Team 2's mission was to block the gaps in the city gate and carry out repairs. Teams 3 and 4 continued fighting the zombies. Everything was proceeding in an orderly way. The Count watched this from the watchtower, his face full of shock. Hanyul's strength was terrifying, but the one commanding the operation right now was that monster called the Old Ghoul King. His ability was also incredibly powerful, and his arrangements made it seem as if he were watching the entire battlefield from the sky. I once heard my grandfather say that there was a type of monster willing to assist humans, a race with true wisdom. They were heroes of the 4th Demon Realm War, the legendary Wise Brain Dragons. But why am I suddenly thinking of that name now? A little earlier, on Hanyul's side, Hanyul was dragging Banal across the ground while pinning him down. Suddenly, Banal's arm began swelling violently. In an instant, that arm transformed into something like a spiked club. Then he swung it hard toward Hanyul's abdomen. A dull impact rang out. But after taking the hit, Hanyul looked down at Banal beneath him, with a smile. Got you, didn't I? My external obliques caught that. Seeing Hanyul's smile, Banal turned pale with fear, as if facing a deadly enemy. Don't tell me this guy is interested in my ability to transform my body, anywhere, anytime. At that moment, Banal grew anxious. But no matter how hard he pulled, he could not free his spiked club arm from Hanyul's grip. Just then, several barks rang out. It turned out the hound Betterman had arrived. Seeing its master trapped, it became extremely anxious. The next moment, it unleashed its special move, Bone Tornado. Bone Tornado was Betterman's ultimate attack, combining wind-type necromancy. The skulls inside were as hard as your morning wood, practically comparable to diamonds. Anyone caught inside would be easily crushed to pieces. But even such a powerful Bone Tornado was completely useless against Hanyul. My ultimate move didn't work. Betterman instantly wilted, but the next moment, it heard Banal's encouraging voice and pulled itself together again. Thanks to Betterman's interruption, Banal finally gained a chance to catch his breath. At some point, he had injected even more potions into his body. I wasn't planning to use this move, but you forced me. Hanyul watched his performance with a blank expression. No matter how much stronger this guy gets, he still can't surpass my grip strength. Just as Hanyul thought this, Banal's hand suddenly appeared in front of him. The next moment, it clamped tightly around Hanyul's neck. At this point, Banal had transformed into a round ball-like shape, glaring viciously at Hanyul. Let's tear each other apart. This shocked Hanyul. Banal's round body gave him nothing to grip. The next moment, Banal's massive fist appeared in front of Hanyul. Die. As soon as he spoke, Banal's massive fist slammed squarely into Hanyul. In an instant, Hanyul was sent flying by the punch. But the moment Hanyul landed, Banal began moving rapidly across the ground. Looking at Hanyul as if he were a toy, Banal mocked him. I competed on Running Man and earned the title of Speed Demon. Your eyes can't even keep up with my steps now, can they? Out of respect for General Lewin, I wasn't planning to use this move. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for seeking death and meddling in other people's business. After saying that, Banal launched an attack at Hanyul. Hanyul then entered a bodybuilding pose. Front, abdominals and thigh, rear lat spread. He blocked Banal's attack head-on. The sight shocked Banal. He was clearly using this much force, so why did this guy look like he felt nothing? Hanyul seemed calm on the surface, but inside, he had already grown serious. Based on their fiber characteristics, skeletal muscles could roughly be divided into white muscle fibers and red muscle fibers. Red muscle fibers contained more myoglobin, which stored oxygen, making it appear redder. Because of that myoglobin, red muscle fibers did not fatigue easily. However, its muscle contraction speed was relatively slow. White muscle fibers were different. They contained less myoglobin and accumulated fatigue more easily, but their contraction speed was far higher than red muscle fibers. To win this battle now, Hanyul had to keep using his muscles to block the opponent's attacks, until the opponent exhausted himself. In other words, this was a battle of endurance. But at this point, Hanyul still did not understand that Banal's physique had been built through unnatural means. And as countless attacks landed on Hanyul, Banal gradually realized something was wrong as well. If attacks like this do not work, then I will just hit harder. The next moment, he charged at Hanyul with an even stronger aura. The powerful attack instantly made Hanyul's muscles ache. After landing one hit, Banal changed position again. Hanyul clenched his teeth, his eyes darting wildly as he searched for Banal's location. The instant he sensed Banal was about to attack, he used another bodybuilding movement, the bench press. With a thunderous boom, their clash made the earth tremble. Hanyul gritted his teeth and forcefully pushed Banal away. Banal stared at Hanyul, his eyes full of shock. What kind of monster is this guy? At that moment, he had already started thinking of retreating. This guy's frontal strength was absolutely not something he could withstand. The next moment, he used the force to fly into the sky. Since he could not win head-on, he would avoid direct power clashes first. With that thought, he charged down toward Han-Yul again. Han-Yul watched Banal keep moving around him at high speed, completely speechless. When is this guy finally going to get tired? Meanwhile, on Handad's side, Prang looked completely at ease, while facing the combined attacks of Handad and Raphael. Under Prang's invincible giant windmill, the two of them could not even get close. "You two are far too weak," Prang said with disdain. Hearing this, Raphael nodded calmly. "We know we're not stronger than you, but we have the power of a couple's bond. That alone makes us far greater than a big lump like you." After saying that, Raphael raised his sword and charged at Prang again. But the next moment, Prang casually knocked him flying with one strike. Seeing this, Handad flew into a rage. "You bastard, how dare you hurt him? Behold my secret technique. Swift blade severs the knot." After saying that, Handad raised his sword and charged at Prang. "Too slow." Prang clicked his tongue in disdain. As soon as he spoke, he vanished from beneath Handad's blade, and Raphael appeared in his place. Seeing this, Handad was shocked and used all his strength to stop his greatsword. Finally, when the blade was only a mere millimeter away from Raphael, it stopped. But before he could breathe a sigh of relief, Prang had already appeared behind him, ready to attack. Just then, a sharp whoosh cut through the air. Handad turned back in confusion. Han-Yul had appeared there at some point. Meanwhile, in an unnamed village on the border, a man was already panting so hard he could barely breathe. He shouted anxiously, "General Lewin!" General Lewin looked helpless. "How could you barge into a delicate lady's bedroom like this? Could it be that you finally couldn't hold back and wanted to get a little frisky with me?" The man was horrified. "General Lewin, what exactly do you usually read? There's no time for jokes. The White Kingdom is in danger. Something terrible has happened, and we urgently need your support." Hearing this, Lewin waved her hand indifferently. "A little thing like that can be handled by the army. I thought it was something serious. Are you really sure you don't want to get a little frisky with me? Normally, they could handle it, but I heard the leader of those zombies is named Banal." Hearing that, Lewin burst into laughter. "Looks like Banal's luck is terrible too." The man asked curiously, "What do you mean?" Lewin slowly held up two fingers. "Right now, Wyvern Island has two shields. One is our ally, named Han-Yul. The other is my dear niece, Rhine. She is known as the rising star of this continent. In the distant dark age of the continent, wars raged endlessly across the land. During that time, the ancient fairies who were poor at physical activity and tired of conflict were constantly abused and persecuted by Banal's side. Then, one day, a human physician named Joseph Pilates suddenly appeared. To protect the ancient fairies from oppression and persecution, he developed a special exercise breathing method for them and named it Pilates. In the modern era, Pilates was no longer just a form of exercise. It had become a combat technique used widely and exclusively by the fairies. Rhine had always guarded the fairies' forest, and in just 7 short years, she had turned the fairies' Pilates into her own personal technique. Did you think flying into the air would let you escape? Elijah looked at Rhine in the sky and gritted her teeth. "I will eliminate you." After saying that, Elijah charged toward Rhine in the air. "Who said I was running?" Rhine looked at her with disdain and charged toward Elijah as well. With a sharp clang, their sword tips collided, sending out a metallic hum. The next moment, Elijah was shocked again. Rhine spun in midair, her toes landing perfectly on the flat of Elijah's blade. She actually used the force of Elijah's sword to balance herself in midair. Looking down at Elijah beneath her, Ryan's face was full of disdain. "I told you, you're no match for me. You think this fight is over?" Elijah shouted, then launched a series of rapid thrusts at Ryan. But Ryan easily neutralized them. Spinning the sword in her hand, she forced Elijah back again and again. "The pattern on your sword does resemble my aunt's blade, but compared to her, your swordsmanship is far too weak." Saying you are light years behind her would not even be an exaggeration. Meanwhile, far away, Lewin suddenly sneezed. Could my two beloved disciples be thinking of me? The scene shifted back to Han-Yul. At that moment, Han-Yul was enduring Banal's attacks with a helpless expression. How is this thing still not tired after fighting for so long? Banal stared at Han-Yul and broke into cold sweat. "What are you, human or ghost? How have you taken this many attacks from me and still not fallen? That's what I want to ask you." Han-Yul frowned, When are you finally going to get tired? Tired? Only useless people complain about being tired. Enemies surround us on all sides, and my legion hasn't even reached 10,000 yet. This is the crucial moment when geniuses like us must carry great responsibility. How could I possibly say I'm tired? Back then, to defeat General Lewin, I worked without sleep or rest for 30 full days and nights to complete this drug. Now, my power can rival a dragon. Die, you monster demi-human. Hanyul exploded in anger. I wake up at the crack of dawn and bust my ass training every single day to get where I am. And you're out here doping? The next moment, he slammed both hands down hard onto Banal's hands. Seeing this, Banal was shocked. This monster's arm strength was actually comparable to a dragon's. And on top of that, the drug's side effects were about to kick in. The next moment, he pulled himself back. I need to use the neutralizer right away. Hanyul watched from the side, completely confused. Why did he suddenly retreat? Is he about to transform into another form and give my muscles a new kind of stimulation? Suddenly, Banal's round body began to rot and collapse. The next moment, he curled up on the ground and started vomiting violently. Hanyul looked at him with concern. Are you malnourished or suffering from gout? You really need to take better care of your body. But Banal was neither malnourished nor suffering from gout. Once the drug's effects faded, a question suddenly appeared in his mind. Why do I have to fight this monster? Maybe we should call a temporary truce. He looked at Hanyul. Why do we have to fight to the death? Don't you think spending our time fighting in such a beautiful world is a terrible waste of life? Hearing this, Hanyul's face darkened. You think I wanted to fight? You started this. Do you know how many fitness beginners you stopped from being able to train? I'm sorry. Hearing that, Banal actually let out pathetic little whimpers and burst into tears. I can't believe I did something like that. I'm not even human. The next moment, he dropped to his knees in front of Hanyul. Everything I did was to save Elige. Elige? Who is Elige? Hanyul asked in confusion. Elige. She died. Revenge. I have to get revenge. I came here for revenge. After saying that, Banal suddenly burst into wild laughter. It hurts. It hurts so much. This pain feels like my head is going to split open. That is why I have to get revenge. Since you refuse to let me go, I'll end everything before the side effects fully take over. But before he could finish speaking, Banal suddenly froze in shock. In the distant sky, a broken figure flashed past. And that figure was none other than Elige. 32 years ago, at White Kingdom Wyvern Fortress. Back then, Banal was only 17, and he and the current count had been thick as thieves, since they were in diapers. Do you know why the people of our country have such weak mana? Banal asked, while looking at the count practicing swordsmanship beside him. The count was also only 17 at the time, and when he heard the question, he did not even raise his head. He simply poured all his focus into the sword in his hand. You're the next leader of Wyvern Island. Aren't you even a little curious? Banal continued asking, after receiving no response. Hearing this, the young count finally spoke helplessly. Even if I say I don't want to hear it, you're still going to tell me, aren't you? After saying that, he stopped moving and looked at Banal. Go ahead. Banal closed the magic book he had been reading and began explaining. Because mana is different from swordsmanship. Mana is a technique that is easily affected by emotional fluctuations. The more emotional changes a person experiences, the smoother the flow of mana becomes. But the people of Wyvern Island are used to following existing rules and constantly reading other people's expressions, which causes them to suppress their emotions too much. That is why they cannot use mana smoothly, and why they have made no progress in that field. Hearing this, the young count replied, Mana is not a technique we need to strengthen. Magic belongs to the witch's curse, just as swordsmanship belongs to us. Developing the power we were born with is the spirit and identity of the White Kingdom's people. Not bad. Banal gave him a thumbs up. What you just said sounded exactly like some stuffy old politician. Do you want to die? The young count said, then tossed a wooden training sword in front of Banal. Let's have a match for old time's sake. Fine. Banal slowly stood up. Let's loosen up a little. Soon, the sound of wooden swords clashing echoed through the training ground. But before long, Banal was knocked to the ground by the count. That makes it 123 to 43. The two of them turned back in surprise. Young General Lewin had appeared there at some point. Banal, it's not like you lack ability. Why do you always lose steam at the end? Hearing Lewin's question, Banal slowly stood up and replied, Because swordsmanship is just too boring. That is because you have not reached our level yet. Once you reach our level, you will understand how interesting swordsmanship truly is. Look at our future lord. He is clearly enjoying it, but the young count actually thought swordsmanship was boring too. Just then, a voice suddenly rang out, and interrupted everyone. I actually think it's because they're too weak. The two of them were shocked. Who dared to say something so arrogant here? I brought her here. General Lewin stepped forward and said, I haven't introduced her to you yet, have I? She will be your sparring partner for today's sword training. And she is also my star pupil. Elie looked at the two of them. Although she had a smile on her face, her tone was full of disdain. If they're just trash at this level, I could take them both on at once and still win. You brat, what did you just say? The two were furious. How dare you talk so arrogantly here? I can't take this anymore. But Elijah's expression darkened. You damn punk, did you just call me a brat? Seeing Elijah suddenly rush at them, the two were shocked. And in the next second, both of them were lying on the ground. It was far too brutal. From today on, it seemed they could no longer say the word brat. Elijah looked completely different from those fake nobles. She was so pure and refreshingly unpretentious. She was nothing like those vain, flashy women out there. Should he call it a pure kind of beauty? Her face was also very pretty. Just then, Banal beside him interrupted his thoughts. The young count turned his head in confusion, only to hear Banal say, I have a dream. I'm definitely going to marry Elijah. Hearing this, the young count was so shocked that he jumped. Banal looked at him speechlessly. Why are you so surprised? I'm not. Cold sweat ran down the young count's face. I just think it came out of nowhere. Besides, Elijah doesn't seem interested in men weaker than her. Can you really win her over? Your swordsmanship is so weak. Maybe you should just give up. But Banal was not discouraged at all. Starting today, I'm going to take sword training seriously. And so, their record became 127 to 56, then 129 to 92. Finally, it became 129 to 130. Why? Why can't I beat him? The young count's heart was filled with bitterness. Banal asked, Are you really not going to train with us? The young count nodded. Although deep down, he truly wanted to join them. He still said he had to hurry home and deal with official business. Useless fool. I sent you to learn swordsmanship, and yet you cannot even beat a commoner. The young count had just tried to explain to his father. But in the next moment, the old lord hurled his wineglass at him, cutting off his words. I do not want to hear your excuses. I never expected my only son to be this incompetent. I am sorry, father. Then I will take my leave. Rain suddenly began falling from the sky, making his already gloomy mood even heavier. The young count had always lived under his father's shadow, and in the end, he became both weak and incompetent. If you keep sitting here, you'll catch a cold. Suddenly, a voice interrupted his thoughts. It's fine, you may leave, he replied dismissively. But she did not leave. Instead, she stepped forward and took the young count by the arm. You're saying you're fine looking like you're about to drop dead. Does that really mean you're okay? I can tell you don't know how to enjoy life at all. Come with me. And just like that, the young count was dragged away. He was curious. Why was this girl always smiling? Was it because she was with him that she was this happy? Suddenly, a thought that had no right to be there crept into the young count's mind. Could it be that the person she likes isn't Banal, but me? As that thought appeared, it was as if a ray of sunlight shone into the young count's heart. I will love you more than anyone else in this world. Then one day, a turning point finally arrived. Did you hear? Banal confessed to Elijah, but she rejected him. I thought those two were already dating. Banal had been rejected. The young count was secretly overjoyed. Does this mean I have a chance? Elijah really does have feelings for me. With that thought in mind, he ran straight toward Elijah's house. Elijah, I like you. No, I love you. For the first time, he made a decision about his own future. Even if his father tried to suppress this relationship, even if he had to give up his position as heir, as long as he had her, that would be enough. I only want you. I will definitely make you happy. But when he pulled open the curtain beside him, the sight before his eyes filled him with pain. Elijah and Banal had already gone from crossing swords to locking lips. Their tongues were engaged in fierce combat right before the young count's eyes. The sight shattered his innocent heart. The pain, it was simply too much. But the night before that happened, Banal had anxiously asked Elijah, why did you reject me? I can feel it. You like me too. You said you liked men stronger than you in swordsmanship, so I worked hard to train my swordsmanship. I can't say I win every match, but we can at least fight to a draw now. Could you not reject me so quickly and think about it again? But before he could finish speaking, Banal suddenly froze in shock. At that moment, an immense amount of mana was pouring out of Elijah's body. From the day I was born, my body has carried this uncontrollable mana. Since the mana is too strong, it harms the body. so I have to occasionally release the excess mana that builds up inside me. For now, I can still hide it from everyone and secretly release it, but one day, I will be discovered. That is why I don't yet have the courage to drag the person I cherish down with me and make him carry this burden too. But after hearing that, Banal stepped forward and hugged her tightly. Elijah was shocked. What are you doing? If you do this, your own body will be affected by my mana too. Banal raised his head and looked at Elijah with a solemn expression. I am the only magic scholar on White Kingdom's Wyvern Island. From this moment on, I swear to the heavens that I will solve this problem for you. I will love you for the rest of my life and spend that life with you. And so, Banal and Elijah spent a happy period of time together. If the story had ended there, it would have been a happy ending. But happy days rarely last for long. One day, Elijah could no longer hold back the mana inside her body. As she grew older, the mana within her would continue to grow as well. Eventually, she would no longer be able to suppress it at all. After that, Banal shut himself inside his research room day and night. He secluded himself there for a long time and finally discovered a substance that could enhance physical ability. As long as I complete this research, everything will be fine. As long as I complete it, I can love you for the rest of my life. Please wait for me. Elijah, you can't do this. Why are you doing this? Elijah, didn't we love each other? Why are you treating me like this? Weren't we happy together? Elijah froze when she heard that. That was not what I meant. If I gave you the wrong idea, I'm truly sorry. After saying that, she raised her hand, which was covered in mana, and looked at the young count. Even if we truly ended up together, could you wholeheartedly love someone like me? Someone who has no choice but to use magic and will eventually be branded a heretic? You knew about my situation long ago, yet you kept pretending nothing was happening. I always knew. You followed me several times. The young count anxiously interrupted Elijah. That was because back then, I didn't have the courage to defy my father. But now even now, I still don't dare. And just like that, the young count ran away. Filled with misery and emboldened by liquid courage, he went to his father to complain. After that, Wyvern Island faced an unprecedented drought. The cracked land left Wyvern Island's rice fields completely barren. The water in the ditches nearly dried up, and even the cows could no longer produce milk. The people went to the Lord, hoping he would stand up and make the heavens drop even a little rain. Inside the castle, the Lord quietly watched those people. If rain could fall, that would naturally be good, but he was not a god. How could he possibly make rain fall? The young count asked his father worriedly how they should handle this matter. But the Lord was not panicked at all. He had seen situations like this far too many times. They are not truly blaming me. They simply want someone to vent their anger on, someone to carry the blame for the heavens refusing to rain. In other words, they just want a scapegoat. And conveniently, there is someone who can become that scapegoat in my place. That person is Elijah, the girl you confessed to. I never expected my useless son to actually be useful one day. If you had not come to complain to me, I would not have known there was still a witch hiding in this country. You can't, father, the young count shouted anxiously. As a father, how can you exploit the woman your son loves? But before he could finish, the old lord slapped him to the ground. You foolish boy, you are going to become the ruler of this place one day. How can you be shaken by childish romance? I can no longer indulge you. Men, lock him in his room. And so, the young count was imprisoned in his own room. But this time, for the first time, he tried to resist his father through action. She was the woman he loved. Even if he could never have her, he couldn't just watch her die. That was what he thought before escaping his room. Finally, he found Elijah in the crowd, but the people around him recognized him as well. He called the witch's name just now. If he really is her accomplice, then even the Lord's son must be punished with her. The furious and extreme words of the crowd terrified his cowardly heart. And so, he ran away again, just as he always had. Nothing else happened after that. Elijah still died in the end. Banal arrived, but he was ultimately one step too late. Even though the guards severed his arm, the agony in his heart was already beyond measure. He hated those ignorant people. He hated the Lord of Wyvern Island, but at that moment, the person he hated most was himself. If only he had completed his research a little faster. Back in the present, Banal watched Elijah's shattered body scatter through the air. He instantly grew frantic and raised his leg, ready to rush toward her. But Hanyul blocked Banal's path. Banal was both anxious and furious. You damn bastard. Get out of my way. Hanyul said nothing. He simply unleashed his secret technique, two-arm dumbbell front press. The next moment, a massive force sent Banal flying. Watching Banal get knocked away, Hanyul felt confused. Why did his movements suddenly become so easy to predict? At that moment, Banal anxiously got back to his feet. But before he could move, Hanyul intercepted him again and knocked him to the ground with one punch. Then, Hanyul mounted Banal and hammered him with punch after punch. Banal struggled desperately with his right leg, but Hanyul clenched his fists even tighter. His fists smashed down onto Banal's face. It was none other than the legendary fitness technique, straight arm pull down. Absolutely terrifying. Then, Hanyul raised his fists again. He smashed them down on Banal once more, unleashing another legendary fitness technique, triceps cable pushdown. Hanyul performed 10 full sets on Banal, 15 reps per set. By the time he finished, Hanyul's fists were covered in Banal's blood. Banal lay on the ground, completely unconscious. Should I go deal with the other zombies now? Just as Hanyul was thinking this, Bedormand suddenly appeared. It activated Bone Tornado. Just as Hanyul took his stance and prepared to break apart the tornado went straight around him. Then, it swept up Banal behind him. Seeing this, Hanyul could not help smiling. Is it trying to take its family away? As expected, dogs really are humanity's most loyal companions, no matter where you are. Then, several more bone tornadoes rose across the battlefield. The defeated Elijah, Banal, and Prang were all swept up by Bedormand. Ryan quietly watched this from afar, showing no intention of stopping them. The Count watched from the distance, extremely anxious. You can't let them escape like this. He'll definitely come back for revenge. Hurry up, chase him down and kill him, Ryan. But Ryan did not chase after them. Instead, she changed direction and headed toward Wyvern Island. The Count was completely confused. Are you deaf? Why are you coming here instead of chasing Banal? Hurry and go after Banal. But Ryan had no interest in losers. She rushed straight toward the Count. You bastard, what did you do to my aunt? The Count turned pale with fear and bolted, ordering everyone to stop Ryan. The newly appointed young secretary was already used to this, and simply stared at the Count's fleeing back with disdain. At that moment, Ryan, who had rushed to the city gate, was stopped by Handad and Raphael. Ryan, junior sister, we can't let you go any farther. Ryan looked at them with disdain. You two senior brothers can't stop me. Of course we know we can't stop you. But we have the power of friendship and bonds. After saying that, the two raised their swords and lunged at Ryan. But Ryan simply flipped over and landed steadily on the blade Handad had thrust toward her. Standing on the sword, Ryan bent her body slightly and unleashed her special technique, Stacked Bones. Then, she leaped up and landed directly on the watchtower. But the Count was already long gone. Only the young secretary remained on the watchtower. We cannot let you attack the Count. After saying that, the young secretary attacked Ryan. But Ryan merely tapped the young secretary's head with the hilt of her sword, instantly knocking him out. Just then, a large hand suddenly came at her. Ryan lightly jumped away and dodged the attack. It turned out Flog had arrived. Can you stop? Junior sister Ryan, Flog said as he looked at her. Ryan recognized him as well. So, it's senior brother Flog, she said. Before, you were only a little handsome. Now even your body has improved. But with an attack that slow, is your opponent supposed to be a snail? After saying that, Ryan leaped backward and jumped down from the watchtower. Soon, Ryan found the Count, who was sprinting away at full speed. Looking at the Count, Ryan's face filled with hatred. Where do you think you're running? You have to take responsibility for the downfall of our family. After saying that, she thrust her sword at the Count. The Count was so terrified that he nearly wet himself. But the blade aimed at the Count stopped when it was only a hair's breadth away from him. Ryan's calf had been tightly grabbed, leaving her unable to move. It turned out Hanyul had arrived. The Count gasped in shock, only to be horrified again a second later. Ryan had raised her sword high, planning to throw it and pierce the Count to death. But Hanyul would not let her have her way. The next moment, he unleashed his special move, straight arm pull down, and slammed Ryan hard into the ground. Anyone who trains knows that a movement like the straight arm pull down does not work if you only do it once. If you do it, you have to complete at least one set. After finishing the set, Hanyul felt refreshed from head to toe. But when he looked at the person beneath him, he became a little worried. It was all because his previous opponents had been too muscular. So, he had failed to control his strength just now. She didn't die just like that, did she? Hearing this, the Count quickly told Hanyul not to worry. She should only be unconscious. Several days quickly passed, and Ryan, who had been unconscious for days, finally woke up. She looked around in confusion. Who are you? Where am I? The boy replied, This is a guest room on Wyvern Island. Lord Hanyul told me to look after you. If you need anything, you can tell me. Really? Ryan was overjoyed. Then can you tell me where the Count is? The Count is taking Lord Hanyul's coaching lesson right now. Do you want to come with me and watch? You can really take me there. Ryan could hardly believe it. Did this child not know that she had come here to kill the Count? Soon, the two arrived in a forest. Are you sure you're not lying to me? Who would train in such a harsh environment? Just trust me, Lady Ryan. Look, Lord Hanyul and the others are right over there. He really had brought her here. Ryan was a little stunned, and what she saw next made her eyes widen. The Count was panting heavily. He was running in front like a horse, pulling Hanyul along behind him. Seeing Ryan at that moment, the Count was overjoyed. Didn't you say you were going to kill me? Ryan, come on. But after waiting and receiving no response, the Count immediately grew anxious. He turned his head to look. Ryan was already radiating sparkling little stars. It seemed she really was General Lewin's niece. Soon, the Count and the others finished their training. After that, the Count gathered the internal affairs officers and Hanyul's group to begin handling the incident. Since all the key people are here, let us begin the discussion. The internal affairs officer immediately stepped forward. First, due to Banal's attack, most of our nation's main soldiers died on the battlefield. To address the decline in national strength, we summoned General Lewin, who had been exiled to the border. However, she refused because she had urgent matters to handle. After saying that, he looked at the Count. Who should be held responsible for this loss? The Count waved his hand. Let's demote Handad and Raphael as punishment. How does that sound? That is a wonderful idea. Count, you truly are a genius. Next, let us discuss the second matter. After seeing Hanyul's performance, many citizens have gone to the training center, saying they want to start fitness. Therefore, we have formed a bodybuilding fencer guard unit. We have decided to appoint the ghoul athletes as temporary training commanders. Does everyone agree? This is a good thing. So of course we agree. Lord Hanyul, thank you very much for helping protect our nation's defense. Hearing this, Hanyul waved his hand, signaling that there was no need to thank him. Then, he slowly stood up and walked toward the Count. Seeing Hanyul approach him with a dark expression, the Count broke into a cold sweat and said shakily, Lord Hanyul, if you have any complaints, you can tell me. We can discuss. The next moment, Hanyul kicked the stool the Count was sitting on and shattered it. The Count was completely confused. Did I do something wrong again? Why do you look so angry? Hearing this, Hanyul gestured to the ghouls beside him. Aren't you taking my training class? Why are the rest of us holding an isometric squat while you're actually sitting on a chair? Fine. I understand. At that moment, tears flowed from the corners of the Count's eyes. We need to finish this discussion quickly. Summarize every matter briefly and speed things up. As expected of a Count who got tormented every day, he adjusted his mindset incredibly fast. The internal affairs officer stepped forward. Next, the third matter concerns Ryan. Although Ryan is suspected of attempting to assassinate the Count, considering the current state of the nation and her existing grudge against the Count, we have decided to reduce her punishment. However, according to the law, we will revoke Ryan's citizenship on Wyvern Island. At that moment, the Count stared at Ryan, his eyes gleaming with hope. I know you hate me deeply. If you are dissatisfied with this sentence, say it loudly, right now. I can still give you the right to kill me. No, actually, please hurry up and kill me already. The internal affairs officers fell silent. Why is he begging for death? Then everyone turned their gaze toward Ryan. Hearing this, the Count instantly grew angry. How can you give up so easily? It was only one failed assassination. A useless person like me has no right to lead this country. I now grant you the authority to judge my crimes. I don't care who does it. Someone hurry up and sentence me. Hanyul froze when he heard this. Do you mean you want to reduce your official work hours and focus on exercising with me? That's actually a good idea. You're really catching on. Meanwhile, the internal affairs officers were watching closely from the side. After this incident, the Count's power had been weakened by more than half. It felt like they could obtain the Lord's position with just a flick of their fingers. Hanyul never expected these people to be so thoughtful, all for the sake of giving the Count more time to exercise with him. He was immediately moved. I've decided, no matter which of you takes over as Count, I will do everything I can to help strengthen your body. Thank you, Mom. I'm so glad you didn't give birth to me into the Wyvern Island heirs family. As expected, the Count himself is the most suitable person for this position. Keep going, Count. Please stop talking. The Count was close to tears. let's just continue discussing the next matter. In the following discussion, the Count agreed to make the exercise equipment Han wanted. However, with Wyvern Island's current technology, they could not produce the equipment Han had in mind. But they had heard that the Earth Spirit King Behemoth had the ability to make it. The problem was that no one knew where Behemoth was. Just then, Ryan stepped forward. I know about this. While I was learning Pilates, I lived with the fairies, so I naturally learned how to communicate with spirits. Great. Han was instantly overjoyed. Then, can you take me to find Behemoth? Ryan nodded. That's a small matter, but can you lend me your strength and help me get revenge? The Count was shocked. Didn't I already kneel down and beg you to kill me? I'm not talking about you. I mean the people who killed my entire family. The Black Magic Corps Oakless. The scene shifted to another location. At that moment, Banel was inside an unknown cave, constantly explaining something to the two people in front of him. I really won't fail again next time. This time, there was truly a major variable. But that lord must be very disappointed in you now, right? As expected, things would be better without Elijah, wouldn't they? Just moments earlier, Banel had raised his massive fist. You dared to attack Elijah. I'll slaughter every last one of you. Before he even finished speaking, he charged at the Scarecrow with his fist raised. However, the Scarecrow easily blocked that thunderous strike. Seeing Banel lose control in rage, the Scarecrow and the other companion showed no tension at all. Instead, they let out mocking laughter. Look at you, going berserk. How ridiculous. One of them even declared coldly, I've decided. I'm going to eliminate Elijah. At that moment, Banel quickly injected several more vials of serum into his body. In an instant, his arm swelled again, and he slammed it toward the Scarecrow with tremendous force. A thunderous boom rang out, kicking up clouds of dust. But within the smoke, the two companions quietly turned into a mass of thick, viscous rainwater. No matter how wildly Banel attacked, he could not harm them in the slightest. Listening to Banel's futile roars, the two kept laughing mockingly. Banel knew very well that he was no match for them, so he gathered all his strength and unleashed one final heavy strike. Then, using the thick smoke as cover, he fled the cave in panic. That lord truly foresaw everything. He must have predicted Banel's betrayal long ago, and that was why he expelled him. He paused for a moment, then asked, What are we supposed to do about the research logs Banel left behind? The Scarecrow glanced sideways at him. Those research logs belong to me. Hearing that, the girl let out another scornful laugh. So many people in the group are eyeing his research results. Do you really think you can take them for yourself? Right then, a sudden sound came from the sky and interrupted their conversation. The two of them looked up in confusion. A shadow dropped over them, followed by countless sharp streaks of sword light. In the next instant, the two of them were completely surrounded by a dense storm of blades. General Lewin had arrived just in time. Looks like I'll be cutting down quite a bit of straw today, Lewin said in a cold tone. When the Scarecrow saw that his body had actually been sliced apart, he gritted his teeth in rage and instantly unleashed all his energy, activating his secret technique, Rotten Gloom. Then he launched a fierce attack on General Lewin. But Lewin merely shifted her body slightly and easily avoided the fatal strike. The trees behind her were not so lucky. In the blink of an eye, they all withered into lifeless husks. After dodging the attack, Lewin drew her sword without hesitation and rushed straight at the Scarecrow. By then, the Scarecrow had already used magic to enlarge his body. He raised his scythe high into the air and brought it down at Lewin with a violent roar of wind. Lewin remained perfectly calm and blocked the blow with ease. In my country, when people want to show respect to their ancestors, they clear the weeds in front of their graves. Lewin kept attacking the Scarecrow as she spoke. Isn't that custom kind of ridiculous? It's a tradition from hundreds of years ago, and people still insist on keeping it alive. But if you asked me to abandon that custom, I honestly couldn't do it. I guess I'm just a stubborn traditionalist at heart. As soon as she finished speaking, General Lewin leaped into the air. In the next moment, she unleashed her secret art. Old monk draws the sword. Elsewhere, the Count wore an expression that screamed, live or die, whatever. He kept swinging his sword non-stop, desperately clearing away the weeds in front of him. I told you to stop cutting the grass, Ryan said in annoyance. The spirits are going to get upset. But the Count paid her no attention at all. I have to make sure Lord Hanyul has a clear path ahead of him. At that moment, Hanyul walked over and gently patted the Count on the shoulder. I appreciate the thought, but I'm fine. You should fall back and keep moving forward with walking lunges. Then he turned to Ryan. Are you sure this is the right way? I feel like we've just been walking in circles this whole time. This is the place. I'm sure of it, Ryan said firmly. The path of the heart isn't the same as an ordinary road. Oh, you're right. Hanyul crouched down and patted the ground beneath his feet. The next second, he lit up with excitement. This soil is really soft. It feels perfect for jump squats. Alright, let's start with 20 jump squats. Meanwhile, Ryan stood nearby, focusing her mind and sensing the spirits. As she gradually emptied her thoughts, she could feel the birds singing in the forest, the rustling of leaves in the wind, and even the delicate sound of flower buds quietly blooming. Guided by that presence, the spirit path slowly began to reveal itself. Good work. Now let's do 40 more. How many did I just say? Hanyul asked. The ghouls immediately shouted at the top of their lungs, 40. Too quiet, Hanyul roared. 60. Ready. How many did I just say? 60. The ghouls answered in unison. Good. Hanyul nodded in satisfaction. That's the spirit. But before he could finish speaking, Ryan grabbed Hanyul and pulled him into the spirit world with her. The scene before Hanyul left him completely shocked. Just surrender your body to the wind, Ryan said calmly beside him. This is the spirit realm where the spirits of the land live. Gaia, the Mother Earth. The ghouls were all extremely excited when they saw it. But the next moment, they crashed heavily to the ground. Some even face-planted into the dirt, looking as if they were trying to sprout by doing deep squats there. Lord Hanyul, my body feels so heavy. Tell me about it. Hanyul also nodded. This place is perfect for squats. Just then, the ground suddenly shook violently. Hanyul looked at everything happening before him, his eyes gleaming with excitement instead. There's actually such an amazing home gym here. I can't wait to meet this guy Behemoth. The next moment, ancient tree golems launched an attack on Hanyul's group. Seeing this, everyone immediately scattered and ran. Only Hanyul stood firm and caught the golem's massive fist head-on. The ghouls were amazed by the sight. Lord Hanyul is an absolute beast, but an even more shocking scene came next. Countless golems stood up one after another, piling their massive weight onto Hanyul. With the weight of more than a dozen golems stacked together, even Hanyul could not help letting out a roar. Hell yes. This overload is absolutely perfect. The next moment, rumbling sounds echoed through the ground. Is it an earthquake? The ghouls asked in confusion. Flog shouted, it looks like Master's muscles are about to explode. Find cover. At that moment, Hanyul had already taken on a giant-like form, lifting countless golems high into the air. Then he looked down at the old ghoul king. Old ghoul king, increase the weight for me. The old ghoul king immediately activated tenfold heavy blunt, pressing down heavily on Hanyul. Hanyul was extremely satisfied and began squatting rhythmically while holding the golems up. What are they doing? Ryan asked in confusion. Today is Lord Hanyul's leg and glute day, a ghoul explained. What is leg and glute day? Ryan became even more confused. Just then, Flog also walked over. Leg and glute day is the day specifically used to train the lower body. At that moment, a voice suddenly rang out and interrupted their conversation. Another group of little ants has crawled in. I am Behemoth, master of Gaia, the spirit realm. What is your purpose for coming here? But no one answered. Everyone turned their eyes toward Hanyul. After a long moment, Hanyul finally set the golems down and marched toward Behemoth with an imposing aura. Behemoth was full of confusion. Say something already. What exactly did you come here for? After a long while, Hanyul finally finished hydrating and raised his head with a serious expression. Of course, building muscle also requires water. Water intake is essential for muscle growth. Although seawater has too much sodium and isn't suitable as a regular drinking source, the seawater here tastes smooth, gentle, and surprisingly light. Hearing this, the ghouls completely erupted with excitement. In other words, as long as we drink the water here, we can grow muscles, and so, everyone jumped into the seawater and began soaking in it. At that moment, Hanyul looked completely refreshed and shouted toward the sky, now, let's talk about business. But Behemoth was furious. You're actually drinking water while talking to me? What a shameless and rude bunch. After saying that, he summoned a group of golems. Then, a maze suddenly rose up and surrounded everyone. This is a living maze, Behemoth said proudly. Without the help of spirits, you will never find the exit. And on top of that, I placed golems inside this maze to welcome you. Can you pass through this ever-changing maze, break past the golems, and reach me? Hearing this, Rhyme smiled lightly, then bent her knees and crouched down. The next moment, she shot straight into the sky. But suddenly, a crushing gravitational force slammed down on her body. Then she was pinned heavily back onto the ground. The gravity was too strong. She could not fly up at all. Just then, waves of tremors suddenly came from all around. It turned out the ghouls were pushing against the walls with all their strength. Seeing this, Behemoth was utterly speechless. What a stupid bunch. These walls are not something you can knock down with your bare hands. But the moment he finished speaking, Han-Yul had already cracked the wall with a single push. The next second, that wall shattered loudly in front of Han-Yul. At the same time, Flog also smashed the wall in front of him. His face lit up with joy. Lord Han-Yul is creating cracks for us. Everyone just has to aim for the cracks as your focal point, and we can break through the walls. Hearing this, the ghouls smashed through wall after wall, each of them extremely excited. But what should we do about these golems? Just then, a flash of sword light appeared. Rhine raised her sword and pierced fiercely into the golem's eyes. The next moment, the golems collapsed with a crash. And so, the ghouls began climbing toward the golems' heads. The sight made Behemoth erupt with rage. You damned bastards. Soon, everyone walked out of the maze. Could that be where Behemoth is? Rhine nodded, then pointed to the side. But according to the spirits, we have to lift that thing up before we can meet him. The problem is, that thing is far too huge. Han-Yul immediately stepped out from the crowd. So all we have to do is lift this? Then he walked closer and suddenly froze. A thick rope was tied to the object, and there was even a pulley attached to the ceiling. Why would something like this exist in another world? Han-Yul was completely confused. The next moment, Han-Yul froze entirely. He had just turned 17 this year, and one could say he was still at a tender age. His longing for home had always been buried deep in his heart. When someone like him saw an object from his homeland in another world, especially a piece of equipment that tugged at his heartstrings more than anything else, countless emotions surged through his chest. The lat pull-down was an exercise machine invented in the 1960s by the American coach Andrew Memel. Andrew discovered that gripping the bar of a lat pull-down machine and pulling it down and back was extremely similar to the movement of a pull-up. It was also safer and more efficient, so he created this essential piece of fitness equipment. Even today, it has developed into many different types of back pull-down training machines. Why is there a lat pull-down machine here? Han-Yul wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes, desperately holding back his emotions. I can't cry. If I cry, I'll lose muscle. What's a lat pull-down? The ghouls asked in confusion. What is that? Is it a trap? The Count looked worried. It seems to cover a pretty wide area. Maybe we should run? But before he could finish, Rhine grabbed him. Han-Yul shook his head, indicating that it was not a trap. Then he looked back at the ghouls behind him. What back training movements have we done so far? Tell me. One ghoul immediately stepped forward and answered. One-arm dumbbell rows, pull-ups, barbell rows, and Romanian deadlifts. That's right. Han-Yul nodded. Here you can assist each other and train movements similar to pull-ups. However, most people train alone most of the time. Whenever we want to stimulate the same areas trained by pull-ups, the lat pull-down is the first choice. Although it trains similar areas to the pull-up, the lat pull-down allows you to choose your own training weight. Whether you're a fitness beginner or an experienced expert, this is a back exercise everyone loves. Although the lat pull-down mainly stimulates the scapular area and latissimus dorsi, if you are careless during training, you risk straining your forearms, biceps, or shoulders. Since we have the equipment now, I'll demonstrate it first, then let you try. Step 1 of the lat pull-down, adjust the weight. To keep your body stable during training, first adjust the seat and thigh pads. Step 2. Grip the training bar with your hands slightly wider than shoulder width apart. Keep your lower body fixed on the machine and do not move. Step 3. Do not rely on arm strength. Use your lats, brace your core, and pull the bar down. The path of the bar should stay perpendicular to the ground. Step 4. Remember not to lean back too much to avoid hurting your lower back, and do not use body momentum. But this is too heavy for you, so you should go inside first. After saying that, Han-Yul tightened every muscle in his body. The next moment, the massive iron sphere slowly opened. The Count was still worried. Isn't today Lord Han-Yul's leg and glute day? Is it okay to train back? The ghouls all told him not to worry. Lord Han-Yul's stamina was not on the same level as theirs. The Count still felt uneasy, but how is he going to get inside later? Just as the ghouls also had no idea how to answer, noisy sounds came from the surroundings. Han-Yul forcefully pulled down the training bar. Then he turned his gaze toward the old Ghoul King. The old Ghoul King immediately activated his skill and reduced the weight of the iron lid. Countless ghouls rushed forward and lifted the iron lid together. But even with its weight reduced, the lid still crushed them until they could barely breathe. Seeing this, Han-Yul nodded in satisfaction. Your strength has definitely improved a lot recently. After saying that, he leaped into the pit. With a loud boom, the place became quiet again. That's way too cute. Rhine looked at the scene before her, with literal stars sparkling in her eyes. Countless spirits had appeared before them, and they all looked soft and fluffy. Rhine was about to reach out and touch them, but Hanyul stopped her. Before joining a gym, you have to consult the staff or the owner first. You can't just touch the equipment because you want to exercise. Spot on. Well said. Hanyul looked over in confusion and saw a figure slowly appear. I am King Behemoth, the spirit king of the land. Is that Behemoth? The count asked in disbelief. Beside him, the old ghoul king muttered, his belly does look a lot like mine. How dare you? Behemoth roared in anger. How can you compare me to lowly mid-tier creatures like yourselves? You must be punished. But before he could finish cursing, someone punched him and cut him off. Sorry. Meow. This child is acting up again. Meow. This child is named Lena. She is the highest ranked spirit on land. Meow. I am the real Behemoth. Meow. And all the workers here are high-class spirits. Meow. Please do not treat them like ordinary animals. Meow. After seeing Hanyul's group nod, Behemoth smiled with satisfaction. Since you passed Lena's test, meow. I roughly understand your strength now. Meow. What did you come here for? Meow. Hanyul immediately asked whether Behemoth could make exercise machines. Exercise equipment? Meow. Behemoth thought for a moment. As long as we have enough time and materials, meow. There's nothing we cannot make, meow. Just then, the Celt stepped forward. Greetings, great spirit king Behemoth. I am K-Word, Lord of Wyvern Island in the White Kingdom. May I ask how we should pay you for making the equipment? You are quite polite for a human. Meow. Behemoth thought for a while, then looked at the Count. We spirits do not need your money. Meow. So please pay us with something other than money. Meow. As it happens, a loach-like fellow has recently polluted this pure land. Meow. That loach is rather powerful. Meow. All the scouts we sent out have lost contact. Heroes. Meow. Can you help us restore peace to this land and eliminate those loaches? The cold behemoths. Meow. Hanyul immediately nodded and was about to agree, but the Count quickly raised a hand to stop him. Then he looked back at Behemoth. May I ask if someone can guide us? The previous times, we only set one spirit to investigate. Meow. Since this time, we will have your assistance. Meow. The highest ranked spirit, Lena, will guide you. Meow. Lena cried out in surprise, then turned around and said weakly, I still have to manage this place. Hearing this, Behemoth opened his mouth and breathed out a puff of cold air. Do you think I don't know that all you do here every day is sleep in and eat snacks? Meow. Hurry up and guide them. Meow. The scene shifted back to General Lewin. At that moment, she was staring at the enemies before her with a grave expression. It seemed she had stirred up a hornet's nest this time. That's Swordmaster Lewin. Hurry and capture her, new Oculus. But General Lewin did not panic at all. In the end, they were just a few mortal flies. Calling them flies did not seem quite right, because they could sting. Then she would call them bees and she would be the one harvesting the honey. After saying that, General Lewin charged toward the group. The next moment, every enemy was sent flying by Lewin. In a mere fraction of a millisecond, she harvested multiple lives in midair. The survivors were shocked by the sight. As expected of General Lewin, the strongest in Wyvern Island, truly lived up to her reputation. But Lewin never liked wasting words. The next moment, she sheathed the sword in her hand. The flies that had been hovering moments earlier were cleanly sliced in two the very next instant. The others were horrified. Was this still within the realm of humanity? Even though they had already placed General Lewin among the powerful in their minds, they never expected her to be this strong. At that moment, Lewin had already summoned countless sword shadows. Looking at the sword shadows in the sky, the remaining enemies became strangely calm. To die beneath the blade of such a powerhouse meant their time in this world hadn't been in vain. The next moment, Lewin controlled the sword shadows and sent them attacking the crowd. A thunderous boom rang out. The area returned to silence once again. After dealing with these people, General Lewin continued forward. Since I'm already here, I might as well go deal with that disobedient disciple of mine. Meanwhile, on Hanyul's side, he was watching Lena eat dirt. Hanyul looked completely confused. Lena explained, for a spirit of my level, all I need to do is eat minerals, and I can read the memories of the land. After eating, Lena's eyes suddenly widened in surprise. Hanyul brightened up. Did you see something? No. I just thought the dirt here tasted really good. Well, I'm kidding. Since the minerals here aren't old enough, Lena can't read memories from too far back. So stop looking at me like I'm some greedy little glutton. Anyway, let's first find the oldest looking mineral treasure king nearby. After hearing this, the ghouls split up and began searching. but the round stones gave the ghouls no place to grip. Han-yul asked in confusion what they were doing. A ghoul quietly explained, "We want to pick up this rock, but it doesn't have a handle, so it's hard to pull out." Hearing this, Han-yul told the two of them to step aside. Then he placed his hand on the rock. "If what you need is a handle," the next moment, his hand clenched with force. A handle formed directly in his grip. Seeing this, the ghoul beside him could not help sighing in admiration. As expected of Lord Han-yul, the man with a brain inside his muscles. But as Han-yul held the rock, he suddenly thought of something. Then he lifted the rock and began doing one-arm dumbbell rows. Meanwhile, on Flog's side, he had also set his eyes on a rock in front of him. The next moment, Flog crouched down, hugged the giant rock tightly, let out a shout, and lifted it over his head. Then he began squatting rhythmically, using the rock for a snatch grip overhead squat. After finishing the squats, Flog casually tossed the rock aside. Seeing this, Han-yul practically heard the phantom clatter of dropped weights. The ghouls who witnessed this also began copying him, one by one. They all hugged large rocks and started exercising. Lena watched the scene with a speechless expression. Did they forget the task I gave them? But it did not matter, because she had already seen it just now. Meanwhile, somewhere else, a male spirit was speaking to the person in front of him. The Aqua's core highly recognizes Kokening's abilities. "That is why our Lord sent me to invite you to join our organization." After saying that, the man drank the tea in front of him. But the next moment, he was shocked. Then, he exploded in anger. "You filthy toads actually dared to poison me during negotiations." Hearing this, the toad Kokening said innocently, "This isn't poison, Ribbit. This is a drink called whiskey. Ribbit. Alcohol is the most valuable gift the gods have given humanity. Ribbit." But the anger on the male spirit's face did not fade at all. "You wretched amphibian, how dare you be so rude." But just as he was about to rush forward, a wave of dizziness suddenly hit his head. The man was instantly shocked. At that moment, Kokening's voice rang out again. "It's not that we don't want to join you, but we're not satisfied with the terms you offered. Ribbit, let's have a drink first." After saying that, he ordered his subordinates to pour large mouthfuls of alcohol into the man's mouth. Before long, the man had become completely drunk. Kokening looked extremely satisfied. Now this is the right state for a proper discussion. Ribbit. Meanwhile, on Han-yul's side, Lena watched the ghouls with a speechless expression. They could even have this much fun playing with rocks. As expected, they were all uncivilized, mid-tier mutts. Your latissimus dorsi seems to have gotten a lot bigger lately. Ghoul number 2 was so happy to hear this, that his pecs began bouncing wildly. But he still said modestly, "It's just a muscle pump. You're the one whose lifting weight has improved a lot." Of course. Ghoul number 1 scratched his head. After all, weight is the true essence of muscle growth. Hearing this, Ghoul number 2's expression turned cold. Stimulus is obviously more important than weight. Hearing that, Ghoul number 1's expression also turned cold. Weight is clearly the truth. And so, the two ghouls began a heated debate over whether weight or stimulus was more important. But after arguing for a long time without reaching a conclusion, one of them said, "If we can't settle this with words, then let's compete." Good. That's exactly what I was thinking. The ghouls nearby were already prepared to enjoy the show. A battle between weight and stimulus. Just hearing about it made them feel like their chest muscles were about to grow. The battle between the two ghouls was about to begin. The next moment, they started showing off their muscles in front of everyone. The weight group's front lat spread seemed larger, but the stimulus group's balance and symmetry were absolutely flawless. Then the judge called for the two ghouls to strike another pose. The next moment, the two ghouls struck their pose, front double biceps. Then another ghoul shouted, "Pose 2." The next moment, the two ghouls struck a front lat spread. Just as the ghoul was about to call out pose 3, Han-yul arrived. "Did you guys gorge yourselves on too much chicken breast or something? You actually started a battle between weight and stimulus? If you have time to think about pointless stuff like this, then use all your strength to train, and use all your strength to rest." Seeing Han-yul arrive, the ghouls gathered around him and asked whether stimulus or weight was more important. Han-yul sighed lightly. "Which do you think is more important, dumbbells or barbells? Which is more important, the hamstrings or quadriceps, the trapezius or the chest muscles?" Watching from afar, the Count was completely speechless. What's next? Is he going to ask whether mom or dad is more important? The old ghoul came hurriedly cut him off. "Stop talking. Lord Hanyul has sharp ears. At that moment, the ghouls also lost their confidence after hearing Hanyul's words. Just then, Hanyul stepped forward and patted them on the shoulders, telling them not to overthink it. Can't you just keep increasing the weight while also feeling the stimulus? Treat all the training you've done until now as if it never happened and start over from the beginning. And so, on this day, the ghouls once again experienced this truth with their entire bodies. Seeing all this, Lena could not help sighing inwardly. It seemed these people had completely forgotten the mission. Meanwhile, on Flog's side, the words Ryan had once said to him kept echoing in his ears. Your attacks are so slow. Can you really hit an opponent like that? He clearly felt that he had grown stronger. Lord Hanyul had said that if he wanted to become stronger, he needed to strengthen coordinated attacks. After that, he arrived at a certain place. A slime appeared before his eyes. The next moment, he charged toward the slime. But the slime he had just caught with a K-style chest fly hold was taken from his hands. Flog looked up in confusion. A frog was sitting there. Sorry about that, Ribbit. I didn't know someone had already claimed this slime. Slime soaked in liquor has quite a unique flavor. But what do you humans use slime for? Although Flog wondered why a beast man had come here, he still said he needed that thing to become stronger. Hearing this, the frog laughed cheerfully. You want to become stronger? That's perfect. Our boss loves helping people get stronger. Ribbit, do you want to come with me and meet our boss? I'll introduce you to him. Ribbit, hearing this, Flog hesitated. But I already have a master. The next moment, Flog arrived inside a cave. You really know how to drink. Human, Ribbit. Looks like you drink quite a lot usually. Ribbit. Flog said drunkenly. This is my first time drinking. Didn't you say you were going to help me become stronger? You are becoming stronger right now, Ribbit. Drinking alcohol increases your alcohol tolerance. Ribbit. After saying that, Kokening raised another cup and poured it into Flog's mouth. After getting Flog drunk, a smile gradually appeared on Kokening's face. Thank you for your patronage. I'll be sure to charge you a hefty premium for the booze. Ribbit. A long while later, Flog finally woke up slowly. Why is my mouth so dry? My head hurts too. Also, where the hell did I end up? Am I even still in the same country?